Bonsoir et bienvenue à notre séance du le 9 décembre. So welcome everybody at home for our council meeting of December 9th. If we could just stand up for a moment of silence, that would be appreciated. On va se lever pour un moment de silence. Merci, thank you. On va commencer la séance ce soir avec le point 1.1, ouverture de la séance et adoption de l'ordre du jour. Est-ce que j'ai un proposeur et un appuyeur? Je propose.
J'appuie.
Merci. On est au point 1.2, période de questions et réception de requêtes. Mais avant qu'on va commencer, Mme Cournoyer, j'ai un petit mot à lire avant. Je vais le lire en anglais et après, je vais lire exactement le même texte en français. 12 Dahlia demolition. Over the last 2 months, I have stated that council would decide tonight on the possible demolition of the portion of 12 Dahlia, the property known as the Annex, which was a dormitory for the Sisters of the Congregation of Notre Dame during the mid-60s until 2021. Following the public meeting held on November 26 at the Centre Communautaire Sarteau-des-Noyers, where approximately 60 people were present discussing various points of view, I have decided to take pause on taking further action until the new year. Council is extremely busy at this time of the year, and we have all been focused on the budget, which was delivered last week. Council will take time to study and consider what the path forward would look like, and this will bring us likely to late March 2025 before we are able to present a path forward based on the information we heard during the November 26th meeting. Tonight I am confirming that there are no resolutions on the agenda to demolish the annex portion of 12 Dahlia, Quatre Vents. The council remains committed to the preservation of the original house called les Quatre Vents, the small chapel, as well as the property in the coming years. Donc, en français, au cours des 2 derniers mois, j'ai déclaré que le conseil déciderait ce soir sur la démolition possible de la partie de la propriété du 12 Dahlia, connue sous le nom de l'annexe, qui était un dortoir pour les sœurs de la congrégation de Notre-Dame, au milieu des années 60 jusqu'à 2021. Pour donner suite à la réunion publique le 26 novembre au Centre communautaire Sarteau-des-Noyers, où environ 60 personnes étaient présentes et ont partagé divers points de vue, j'ai décidé de prendre une pause sur les futures actions et entreprendre jusqu'à la prochaine année. Le Conseil est extrêmement occupé à cette période de l'année et nous avons tous été concentrés sur le budget qui a été présenté la semaine dernière. Le Conseil prendra le temps d'étudier et de réfléchir à la suite des choses et qui nous amènera vers la fin mars avant que nous puissions présenter une proposition fondée sur les renseignements que nous avons recueillis au cours de la réunion du 26 novembre. Ce soir, je confirme qu'il n'y a pas de résolution à l'ordre du jour pour démolir la partie de l'annexe du 12 Dahlia Quatre Vents. Le conseil reste engagé à la préservation de la maison originale, appelée les Quatre Vents, de la petite chapelle ainsi que la propriété dans les années à venir. On est là. Pour ce soir, je vais aussi dire qu'on va suivre. Ça fait plusieurs mois, là, que, moi, je dirais peut-être même année, qu'on dit qu'il y a à l'entrée, on a un règlement de régie interne qu'on a présentement. Moi, j'en ai une copie ici. Elle existe en arrière, en français et en anglais. Et je vais vous dire que je vais commencer, comme président de la réunion, à commencer à renforcer nos règlements. Pourquoi? Ouais, parce que ça fait des fois 12, 24 mois qu'on pose la même question par les mêmes personnes. Et donc, à un point, on peut seulement répondre 2, 3 fois une question avant qu'on se répète. Donc, et aussi, on a des problèmes d'ordre de gestion de réunion. Et le monde, des fois, prend des libertés de crier au-dessus de nous, soit ici au conseil ou dans la chambre. Et donc, je vous mentionne que ce soir, on va commencer à gérer la réunion avec notre régie interne. So I just wanted to bring forth that we've had issues in the last couple of months, and maybe longer than that, in regards to how the meeting is managed. We've had situations where questions are asked every month for the last 12 months, 2 years in some cases, and we know that this is a question period. I'm willing to answer questions, but to do so 24 different times is really not productive. So, and it doesn't let everyone express themselves properly. So I will be applying the regulation as much as possible tonight. I'm letting everyone know so that it's not a surprise. We have this so that we can have a calm, a productive meeting, and one that doesn't include shouting and yelling over each other, be it council members and in the audience. So with that, I'll start with the question period. If there's anyone who hasn't sent in a question, who's in the room, I would ask them to come up now. And I think, Mrs. Cornway, you sent in a question, so I'm going to ask again. Is there anyone in the room who hasn't sent in a question who would like to ask a question now? You did not send in a question. Okay, go ahead. You can deposit the petition over there, Mrs. Cornway, at the city clerk's desk. Now, this is the fourth petition.
May I speak to the petition?
Well, you can, but please deposit the petition there. What I'd like to know is how many petitions are going on, because you have provided 3 petitions to date. I'm sorry, I'll get back to your questions in just a second. You've deposited 3 petitions. I know that they add up to a little over 1,000 people. I've checked them. I've gone through them. I've eliminated the ones from Beirut and the ones from Australia and other countries. We're really at about 600. So are we just repeating the same people, or are these new people?
I have a submission of 246 signatures, which can be added to the 818 previous signatures, which brings the total amount of petitioners to 1,064. And the petition reads as follows. The undersigned demand that the City of Dorval stop the demolition of the annex building at 12 Dahlia and undertake a detailed study of alternative community-based uses. A public consultation period is required. Possible options, fully costed out, should be presented to the public at the end of this phase. Les sous-signés demandent à la ville de Dorval d'annuler la décision de démolir l'annexe au 12 Dahlia pour entreprendre une étude sérieuse des utilisations communautaires alternatives du bâtiment. Une période de consultation publique est requise pour faire l'examen des options possibles. Celles-ci ainsi que leurs coûts seraient présentés au public à la fin de cette période de consultation.
Thank you, Mrs. Cournoyer. I just would like to I'm confused with the numbers. I had 3 petitions. 818 were presented to us already. I eliminated all of those that were not from Dorval. That left us with 617. Does that sound about right to you?
No, it doesn't sound about right to me, because if I compare the numbers to your petition, your survey that you did last year, you didn't ask for addresses in the city survey. And here I'm getting petitions that are signed on the street and also online. So I'm telling you how many the total numbers are. You can verify those numbers as you wish, but there's a substantial amount of the Dorval population that you are demeaning when they signed this.
I'm not demeaning.
Oh, just a minute there. You've been sneering at this petition for a while now. So the petition is ongoing, and we'll keep on getting signatures for it until we come to a resolution.
So, Mrs. Cournoyer, do the residents of Calgary or Canada or Toronto or Surrey, BC, they're not contributing to whatever the costs of this project are they?
Are you talking about the children of Dorval who are maybe out in those places who are concerned about the convent?
I don't know. All I'm saying, Mrs. Cournoyer, is that
Mr. Doré,
we
you're
should
demeaning
have,
the petition
not at
that
all.
many people of Dorval have signed, and I think you should respect the signatures. There are some signatures that may have come from other places. You, as the city, can decide which of those signatures you're going to respect. But for you to stand here and demean this effort that's been undertaken by many Dorval citizens is not acceptable. That's all I have to say for the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Point d'ordre.
Non, on fait un dépôt, M. Beau. Là. Je
Oui,
sais pas de
non,
quoi
sur
qu'on
votre
parle.
discours, je trouve que c'est manquer vraiment de respect. Peu importe si vous êtes d'accord ou pas, une dame dépose une pétition, il faut respecter. Il ne faut pas trouver à essayer de diminuer ça. Je trouve que c'est a total lack of respect. I think, as a city council, I don't agree at all with how you treat that person. Everybody's allowed to speak. That person made a big effort. And if you find out a few little things, I don't think you should put
Monsieur
down
Brault,
people.
je vais
That's
vous
my
arrêter.
point d'ordre.
Je vais vous arrêter à ce point-ci, là. Point d'ordre, s'il vous plaît. Je vais demander à la madame, merci pour attendre pour nous, là. Vous pouvez passer au micro.
Hi, my name is Silva Ivanova, 500 Musovermet, apartment 222. Do you need the postal code? No? Okay.
We have
you all know where
your
it is.
addresses.
Okay. So I have been following the discussion about the annex and the demolition intentions and so on. And a lot of things have been said about the value and the safety of the building. But I don't remember ever discussing what is the insurance value of this building. These 3 buildings must be insured. And I would like to know if, let's say, today, before these cement blocks are removed, the annex goes in flames and is completely destroyed, what would the city receive from the insurance policy?
Thank you, Mrs. Ivanova. I don't have that information in front of me, so if you'd like to send that request to me tomorrow by email, I will ask the administration to reply to you.
Okay, so that whole time when you have been discussing the value of the building, you had no idea what the insurance value is?
Mrs. Ivanova, I know that some folks think that I know everything about the city, every file, every piece of paper that's written.
Mm-hmm.
I do not know the insurance value of this property, and I will get you the information in the quickest delay if you email me that request.
I definitely will. My second question is regarding to you, Mayor Doré, personally. During your interview with Global, you mentioned that Dorval intends to demolish the building because no community organization ever made the request for it. A few days later, we found out that you have been lying to the citizens about the building being condemned by the fire department. So I want to know what kind of a game exactly is that, because obviously nobody's going to demand to rent a condemned building and put their employees and their clients in unsafe buildings. So how exactly did you decide that there was no interest in the building if it's condemned?
I'm not going to speak to 12 Dahlia tonight. I'm not going to respond to any questions on 12 Dahlia because I've just acknowledged that we're going to take pause on the discussion in regards to what we heard the other day. I think it is fair that we all sit back, we reflect, all of us, think about what the future is. We'll come back as a council. We'll meet together in January, February to go over all of that information.
Okay.
Not everybody had the same opinion at that meeting.
No,
So
but do you have any intention of apologizing
apologizing for what?
for misleading the public for 2 years that the building is condemned
Well,
by the
so-
fire department when it's not?
So let me, we had this discussion in caucus today, and unfortunately, you know, people are hooked on the word condemned. Tonight, we had a very clear discussion with the Director General, who explained to us exactly what happened with the report. I'm going to take some time, and I'm going to go through it, so if you'd like to sit down, you can go ahead. We received, the city received a report in 2022, and it was provided to an employee of the city. I'm going to paraphrase a lot of what I have here. It was presented to an employee of the city of Dorval, and that was after we purchased the property. And in that meeting with the fire department, there were some infractions that were noted, which we all know from the report. And at the end of that, and that was all due to some cement blocks that were put up and around the property, around the property. The employee of the city and the SIM did have discussions. They did make some corrective issues. However, the employee never passed on the document to Monsieur Beaubourg or the higher-ups in the administration. And so we were never aware of that report. Now, it came to light in the last couple of months. Mr. Rouleau understood that there was a discussion or a rumor going around that there was such a document, and he reached out to the fire department, the SIM, the Service d'Incendie de Montréal, and they had a discussion, and they've had many discussions since then. And in fact, what we have today, and Mr. Rouleau was on the phone with them today, it's the same information that the council received today. We have confirmation from the SIM that we can use the building. It is safe to use 12 times a year for council meeting, and we have written confirmation of this. And whoever's, you know, we can get hooked up on the word condemned. We cannot use the building more than what we have just said, 12 days, strictly for a council meeting with the approval of the SIM. Should we change that usage, that would mean that we would then have to respect the building codes that are in place today, and that we would have to start to do some kind of renovation to this building. So as long as we use it 12 times a year for council meetings, or I think it's 13 times a year if you count the budget, we have confirmation and a written email saying that that is conform with them, and we will continue to use this building in that manner. It is safe to use, but should the usage change, then we would have to renovate the building.
I was referring to the annex, actually. You've said multiple times that the annex building was condemned. And last council meeting, I watched the recording, and you said that the city condemned it, that the public misunderstood every time you said it was condemned by the fire department, and that it was condemned by the city. Would you address that, please?
Well, I've always said
About
that
the annex, specifically about that building,
I've never spoken specifically about the annex. I've said since day one that we are allowed to use this building, this place right here, 12 times a year. I've never changed that answer. That's always been my answer since 2022.
Again, I'm talking about the other. Are we allowed to use
No,
the annex?
you're not. I
Is
just
it
think,
condemned?
Mrs. Ivanova, I'm not going to have an argument tonight.
I'm not. I'm asking, is it condemned or not? It's a simple
We
question.
cannot look, let's not dance around the world.
No, it's
The
yes or
word.
no.
The answer is very clear. We cannot use this building, that building,
Okay.
with the exception of this space for 12 times a year.
But is it condemned by the fire department?
They allow
All
us.
of them.
They allow. I'm going to say it for the last time, and I'm going to ask you to sit down.
Oh, I have three questions.
We have written approval, and I don't know how clear I can be. We have written approval from the SIM to use this space 12 times a year and not use any other part of the building.
You do. And
We
that's
do.
the final word.
That
and
is
you
the
have
final
the
word.
paper.
And
All
I
right.
have an email to prove that.
Okay.
Okay, thank
My
you.
third question. I have three questions. My third question is regarding the noise levels along Highway 20 near Bouchard. As we know, the airport expanded service, and since then, I asked last council meeting as well the question about measuring the noise levels, and you said the city has no such intentions, and the
I
city
have
does not have any
no such intentions of
of
what?
measuring the noise levels of the buildings there, and also no intentions of building the wall. But
I don't think I've ever said it in that manner, Mrs. Ivanova. I said that we have not ever committed to building a sound wall, and you specifically spoke to me about the noise level in your apartment, for which I
Yeah.
said that you can and hire a private company to do whatever testing that you'd like to do inside of your building.
inside the whole building, so the city and the airport are not interested in doing that, although the airport posted the noise levels that are acceptable and not acceptable.
Mrs. Ivanova, you purchased a condo
Yeah.
in all full knowledge that you lived under an airport and beside two major highways. To ask me today that I need to solve a sound problem, I think is a little unusual.
I am not complaining about a highway or the train, but when I purchased my condo, the noise levels were different. The operations of the airport were different. And I know that Lachine from 55th Avenue after has a wall, so why not Dorval?
That's a deal that was made with Lachine maybe 20, 25 years ago, maybe even longer than that.
No, it's
There
much
are
less than that.
agreements that can be made with the provincial government. We've never gone and explored that. If the residents of Dorval would like to have a sound wall, we can definitely ask the provincial government what that would cost, but I can tell you that it would cost anywhere from 50% to 100% of the cost, which would be in the tens of millions of dollars.
You mean 50% of the cost will be covered by Dorval?
No, we start at 50. The share starts at 50%, but it could fall to 100% for the city of Dorval based on the MTQ. We've never gone there. It's a very expensive proposition. As you know, Beaconsfield have been having this discussion for the better part of 15 years, and residents don't want to accept to pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. Can I suggest that we have a meeting between residents, the city, and the airport so that we can work out something? Because the airport will keep expanding, as we found out recently. And if it's a simple solution as building a wall, because the problem is not the airplanes that are taking off. The problem is that now my building and my complex could hear the engines on the ground, and that's a constant noise. It's not just the takeoff or the landing. That does not bother me because it's once in a while. But a constant noise that starts from about 5:30 until sometimes 1, 2 o'clock at night. It does not stop, and it's constantly warming up the engines. I don't know exactly the configuration of the new runway, but I can see that the planes are taking in a different direction than before when I purchased my condo. So we can have some
Mrs. Ivanova,
negotiation.
there's only 2 flight paths. They've not changed at all. They don't rotate around. There's always been only 2 flight paths since 1940.
No, they closed one runway, actually.
Yeah,
last
they
year.
did. They
That was
did,
an
but
official.
there's
Yeah,
2.
so there was a change, and there was an expansion which was announced by the airport. So you can't say that it's been the same. Because it's not.
I'm not going to have an argument here.
No,
Mrs.
but it's not the
Ivanova,
same.
small
So are you
runway-
willing to-
The small runway closed down many years ago.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago. It was only used as a taxiway. For the recent years, it's been 2 runways, and they only fly in a straight line, Mrs. Ivanova. They don't fly all over.
Yes, I don't need explanation on that, thank you. But I'm asking if you are willing to have a meeting with the airport officials and the citizens so that we can find a solution on that.
I meet with the airport 4 times a year, and I discuss those points of view.
Okay, so can you invite the residents of MV3 and Dixie to participate in those meetings so we can have a fruitful...
No,
No?
you know, their board meetings with the airport, we don't invite residents.
Okay.
They don't invite residents.
They
invite
don't?
Me. They invite me, they invite the mayor of Point Claire and other mayors of the city of Dorval, that's it. The city, other mayors around the city of Dorval.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess I'll have to contact. Are you willing to participate if I contact them and I organize a meeting?
I'd be happy to.
Okay, thank you.
Est-ce que je pourrais avoir la parole, Monsieur le maire?
Vous pouvez avoir la parole à la question de l'aéroport, M. Brault.
Non, j'ai la parole pour le 12 Dahlia, pour le point de la dame.
Vous pouvez avoir un commentaire, M. Brault.
Ben là, on a un droit de parole, là. It's freedom of speech, you know? So you can look at all the documents that you want, but this is city council. So we have a freedom of speech,
Monsieur Brault,
and that
je vais
lady
vous
said
laisser la
something,
parole. Je vais vous laisser,
I
Monsieur
asked politely. Now
Oui,
you,
oui, je vais vous
no,
laisser
no,
la-
no, you make
je vais-
threats
Non,
all the time.
Monsieur
So,
Brault.
I follow the rules.
Monsieur
So
Brault,
stop-
je vais
stop
vous
arguing.
tenir à l'objet du débat. Donc, vous avez dit le 12 Dahlia. Pas d'allusation personnelle, insinuation, paroles violentes, blessement.
I know how to read. I read that document. Okay,
Well,
so can I speak, please?
Oui, mais vous nous appelez des menteurs l'autre jour, dernier conseil. So, je
Non,
suis sûr
non.
que vous connaissez quoi dire. et
J'aimerais
quoi pas dire.
rectifier, j'aimerais faire un point d'ordre. Je n'ai jamais dit ça. Est-ce que vous voulez vous excuser présentement?
Oh, M. Brault, je m'excuse, mais vous avez...
Non, rectifier que je n'ai jamais traité le directeur général ou vous de menteur. Et là, vous allez sortir le tape encore une fois, et là, vous allez aller avec les fonctionnaires pour écouter le tout. C'est ça que vous m'avez dit la dernière fois.
Oh, M. Brault,
Alors, est-ce que
pense
je peux parler? Parce que là, vous accusez. Là, moi,
Non,
j'ai
je pense
demandé
que
le droit de
vous
parole.
avez clairement dit à la dernière réunion que M. Rouleau et moi-même, on était des menteurs et que vous y étiez pour faire une plainte au MAMAH. Est-ce que vous l'avez faite, votre plainte au MAMAH?
Est-ce que j'ai le droit de faire ça, monsieur?
Je vous lis le règlement comme tel.
Oui. Est-ce que j'ai le droit?
Même vous dites...
Là, vous contrôlez tout le processus du 12 Dahlia. Vous décidez d'avoir une présentation sans l'accord du conseil. Vous décidez maintenant de changer la procédure et vous ne nous avez jamais laissé la chance d'en discuter au conseil. Puis là, ce que vous faites des insinuations contre la dame, vous m'accusez des choses, et là, je vous demande de retirer vos paroles.
Je vais vous laisser parler, M. Brault.
Donc, vous refusez.
Vous avez clairement dit au dernier conseil que nous deux, on était des menteurs et que vous y étiez pour faire une plainte au MAMAH.
J'ai déjà fait une plainte.
Est-ce que vous l'avez faite?
Ben, je suis en discussion.
Ah, OK. Allez-y, M.
Non,
Brault, je vous donne la
coupez
parole.
pas. J'ai parlé à mon avocat, OK? Et l'avocat n'en revient pas du spectacle que vous faites ici. Donc, il y a beaucoup de choses à mettre en perspective selon comment vous agissez. Une rectification. Who can condemn a municipal building like 12 Dahlia? And this is from a lawyer. This is not up in the air. Only the city council has the authority to officially condemn a municipal building. So, city council, it's here. It's a decision with a resolution and a vote. It's not behind closed doors. Okay, the decision is typically based on reports, recommendation from a technical and safety services. The fire department can issue notices of dangers of non-compliance, but they cannot condemn a building. They play an advisory role by identify risk and recommending corrective action. It's the judge. A judge can intervene in dispute or legal procedure concerning the safety of a building. But the condemn that has been discussed here, that you said for many, many times, at the agglomeration here, to the city councilors, condemnation, it's not right, what you said. I didn't say you're lying. I said it's not right. This is from the lawyer. In summary, while fire services and judges can influence a decision, it is the city council, with a resolution and a vote, that holds the power to officially condemn a municipal building. Not the mayor, not the DG, the city council with a resolution and the vote. And this is democracy, and you voted for democracy, and we have the right to talk, to speak, to discuss. It's not one person that runs the whole show here.
Merci, M. Brault. On a pris une bonne partie de notre réunion pour vous expliquer les détails, les nuances de ce que vous avez dit. On a une différence d'opinion et on va le laisser à ça. Mais je peux vous dire à tout le monde à la maison et dans la salle qu'on a plein droit confirmé de la CIM pour utiliser cette salle seulement pour 12 réunions du conseil. À la fin de la journée, on ne peut pas utiliser autre partie de l'édifice. Et si on le fait, ça veut dire qu'il y a un changement d'usage et donc on doit se rendre conforme au code de bâtiment.
It's been 2 years, you said you had a verbal agreement. Now you're saying you have a written agreement?
On a confirmé avec le CIM, M. Rouleau a fait beaucoup d'appels. Et vous avez mis en question qu'est-ce qu'on avait dit en 2022, 2023 et en 2024. Et donc, on l'a confirmé avec le CIM. Et c'est exactement ce qu'on a fait.
My question is, you told that lady that you have a written document from the CIM that you have the permission. Okay, before you said a verbal agreement.
Okay, Mr. Brault,
I'm not telling. No, I didn't say you're a liar or everything. I just asked a simple question. Now you changed your speech. You said you have a...
Monsieur Brault, on n'est pas dans une période de
yes
débat.
Or no?
On est dans une période de questions et là, je retourne.
You don't want to answer that question?
Oh non, je l'ai répondu plusieurs
fois. I said
fois.
Yes or no. Do we have a verbal or a written agreement?
We have a verbal and a written agreement, Monsieur Brault.
Okay.
So,
can you just clarify changement d'usage in English? Does that mean zoning change?
It means a change of usage of the building. So I'm going to continue with question period. Est-ce qu'il y a quelqu'un d'autre qui n'a pas envoyé une question, qui aimerait poser une question ce soir? Bon, on va commencer avec la question de Mme Campagna.
So, Mr. Mayor, the first question comes from Mme Anya Campagna, 520 Avenue Thorncrest. First question is vision, mission, and purpose of 12 Dahlia. The future of the municipal building at 12 Dahlia, Dorval, does not only involve deciding which building in this estate constitute historical/heritage patrimony and therefore merits being preserved and restored and which does not. This is only one matter. In all our discussion about 12 Dahlia, we have ignored and sidelined the question regarding its new vision, mission, and future purposes. When will this discussion take place with the people of Dorval? This cannot remain a private matter discussed behind closed doors. Why? Because 12 Dahlia cannot simply be preserved as a place where colonial settlers' history is enshrined and its indigenous history ignored and erased. Can we address this fundamental issue, please, in a transparent way and using the tools of public discussion and consultation? Can the mayor and council member do their parts and reach out to their indigenous constituent on this matter? Can you reach out to First Nation leaders to make sure we can together meet this historical challenge successfully? It's 2024 and 12 Dahlia has to be reconciled with its past. All of its past. It can become a place of peace, truth, and reconciliation with the First Nations. Will each of you help make it so? Sincerely, Ana Campagna.
Thank you for your question, Mrs. Campagna. I certainly understand the point of view you're coming from. As I said earlier this evening, we're going to take pause on discussions of 12 Dahlia until the new year, when council can get together and have some discussions and figure out what we are going to do moving forward. And at this point, I'm just going to leave my answer at that. Thank you.
Our second question is, no aircraft noises during normal sleeping hours. Dear Mr. Mayor Dora and Dorval Council members, would you kindly provide me and all the residents and citizens of Dorval with a follow-up to my formal request for a unanimous council resolution advocating on our behalf that there be no aircraft noises during normal sleeping hours? This resolution would reiterate the already existing Dorval Council resolution of 1959 sent to the then Transport Minister on the very same subject of no aircraft noise during sleeping hours, and would be addressed to the present Federal Minister of Transport, Anita Hanan. Councillor Pascal Brault proposed at last council meeting in November that my request be subject to further discussion in lieu of the fact that there are no impediment or contradictory resolutions standing in our way from the Montreal Agglomeration Council. Thank you for your attention to my request. Sincerely, Ana Campagna.
Mrs. Campagna, thank you for your question. I think this is really the third time in 3 months in a row now that we've come back with the same question. As I've stated before, council's had this discussion. We had it in caucus. Monsieur Brault has been there, and we opted for following the project that ADM is presenting now to the federal government. And as I have not heard that there's a difference of opinion in the council at this point. So at this, to pass a resolution at this point on an organization that is not an organization that respects municipal resolutions from municipal governments. Normally resolutions from a council are to government officials. I think would only serve to be contrary to what council has already discussed, which is we're supporting the plan of having, that the airport is proposing for having no flights between 1 and 6 a.m., which I think some of us feel is better than 24-hour flights, which we have today. And it's not because it's after midnight or 6 o'clock today that flights fly. They're given 10 to 20 exemptions every night. The plan that is proposed to us right now is no flights at all, with the exception of emergency medical flights to the north from 1 to 6 o'clock, with planes with quieter motors flying late evening and early morning. So that's where we stand. Council has discussed this, and I thank you for your question, and we're going to continue with the question period.
May I speak?
À la question, Monsieur Brault.
I know the rules. First of all, when you say it's better to have the new agreement with than the last one with 24 hours of airplanes going around, there's always been exception, and with the new rule, there's still going to be exception. So it doesn't mean that those exceptions will disappear. So I don't get it. If you adopt the new rule, there's still going to be exemption and exception, so the airplanes can go around anytime during the night. But I studied that what you wrote, Madame Anna, and I look at the mayor said that the agglomeration as the reason is the reason why the council does not support your request in an email dated in October 2024. But I think the council the council opted to presented by the ADM this summer, and also because it goes against the permission granted to ADM by the agglomeration. So allowing certain early morning takeoff and landing for economic development reasons for the Greater Montreal area. So the agglomeration council confirmed in writing in November 13/24 that it has not adopted any resolution in favor of the ADM soundscape plan or other permission. So we have to be careful if we say that what the agglomeration did, okay? So for me, I think we should study an adoption for a new resolution, and we already have a resolution in 1959, and it's an health issue in our community. So I think it's something that we have to look at, and we have to discuss. And when it's a health issue, I think it's a priority. So that's what I'm proposing, that the City Council, we study the adoption of we look at the old resolution in 1959, and we look what we can do with that, okay? So that's my proposal that I'm going to push at City Council at the caucus.
Very good, thank you. Next question, Monsieur Nozola.
Question number 2 comes from Mike Nizola of 66 Avenue Saint-Charles. First question, obligation. To Marc Doré, an extremely important public consultation meeting was held last Wednesday, which you were conveniently unable to attend. This administration urban plan vision for our city contained only bad news for the resident. The plan described a continued and rapidly escalating decline in our quality of life and our environmental surrounding. It again shows continued support for developers and their goals. One must assume that this is why you were not present. I see this as a cowardly act and an admission that our plan for this city is aberrant and undefendable. Why did you not, as mayor of this city, hold this very important consultation on an evening when you would be available to defend it and answer your citizens' concerns? The second question is conflict of interest. Again, it is sent to Marc Doré. Apart from being
Monsieur
our mayor,
Leroux, I'll answer the first question if you don't mind.
Sure.
Mr. Nozola, thank you for your question. And I will say that in the future, based on our règlement de régie interne, we're not going to take these kind of questions. And you can refer, and I'll tell you right now, to points 4.3.6 and 4.3.7 at home. I know you have the document. I wasn't at the consultation because I was out of town last week for 3 days. I think we all have to understand something is that I'm not there to present bylaws of the city. We had Monsieur Lesage who made the introduction. We had 3 people from our urban planning department there to review the PIA, which is an integration tool that we're bringing forth, which will certainly help with some of the developments that are going to be done in the future. We had 3 employees who are very well versed in that document, who have spent many hours over the last few years building it for the city. They are professionals. They are educated, well educated in their field of matter, and it's for them to do. It's for them to do the presentations. It's not for the mayor or for a council member. So I think we were all better guided that we had the proper people doing the presentation for you folks who attended that meeting. Question number 2.
Okay, it is addressed to you again, Mr. Mayor. Apart from being our mayor, you also run a consulting company. This seems to be a great recipe for possible conflict of interest. Is there any mechanism in place to oversee if your consulting company does business with entities that are associated with the operation of our city?
Yes, there is, Mr. Nozola. First, I want to say that I do have a sole proprietorship. It's been registered since 2022. I've never used it at any time. There was a time during COVID when I thought I might use it to do consulting services in the IT field. I never have. To your point, to your question, is there something that prevents me from having contracts with the city? Yes, the code d'éthique for municipal council members. So I'm not allowed to have a contract with the city, and that's essentially, if I respect the code, then I can't have a contract with the city. So there is mechanisms in place, and if I ever did so, then I could get myself into a lot of trouble. And there's no point for doing that, Mr. Nozola. So let's just say that at this point, I do not use that company for any business whatsoever, and definitely not for the city of Dorval. Next question.
The third question from Monsieur Nozola.
Est-ce que je peux avoir la parole là-dessus?
Si vous voulez, Monsieur Beau.
Right. Just to mention to this gentleman that everybody, all the city council, they have to file a document d'intérêt pécuniaire, pecuniary interest document, okay, just to ensure and to avoid any potential conflict. So if we have a company and maybe the greffe can, that's what I found, I was told that we have to declare it on the document every year, and that document is public. So this will avoid any confusion. So if we have a company or anything, then we have to declare it on that formula, and it's public, and people can have access to it.
Thank you, Monsieur Beau. Next question.
Third question is addressed to Mr. Councillor Christopher Von Roritz. So it's called accountability. You have a long history as an independent city councillor.
Monsieur Leroux.
We're on question 3.
Yeah.
C'est ça?
C'est de Mort Geller, la question 3.
Non,
Non,
question 3.
Il y a 3 questions de
On
Monsieur.
est sur la question 3 de Monsieur Nozola.
Oui.
Un moment, s'il vous plaît. Monsieur Nozola, the question will not be read at this point. Based on la régie interne that we have, la question est vraiment une question avec une préambule inutile, et M. Von Roritz n'a pas besoin de répondre à cette question-là. C'est seulement là pour aller dans une direction qui ne serait pas vraiment responsable, et donc on ne va pas la lire. On va continuer avec les questions. Monsieur Von Roritz, est-ce que vous avez d'autres choses à dire? Non. Donc, on va aller à la question numéro 3.
Question number 3 comes from Mort Geller of 590 de l'Église. Okay. Traffic situation at Lelas and de l'Église. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I would like to thank all people involved in a temporary solution to our situation at the intersection of Lila and de l'Église. Very much appreciated, and happy holidays.
Thank you, Mr. Geller, for your comments, and we wish you well over the Christmas holidays. Thank you. Question number 4.
Question number 4 comes from Monsieur Fernando Pellicer of 210 Neptune Boulevard.
Good evening, bonsoir. First question regarding the financial numbers presented at the info session last Tuesday. Option 1, status quo, approximately $95,000. These costs will drop once the building is renovated, obviously. Option 2 and 3, approximately $9.5 million and $10 million, with partial or total demolition of the exterior envelope, yet the architectural audit and my visual inspection confirmed that the exterior masonry is in good condition. The proposed solutions are to install structural bracing and to improve thermal performance. However, after consulting with 2 structural engineers, bracing can be done on interior columns. The bracing and improved thermal performance can be achieved from the interior. Keeping the exterior envelope is financially, environmentally, and historically the best approach. These cost estimates are misleading for not having looked at alternative approaches. Option 4, total demolition, approximately $700,000. When the cost to close the new opening is added, the demolition cost is approximately $2 million. Option 5, various recycling projects, varying from $5.4 million to $20.6 million. There is no need to extend the annex as it is already of fair size. I presented 2 budgets last Tuesday, one of approximately $7 million for a fully renovated annex, code conforming. The second for a similar new building of $18 million, which was based on the Canadian cost yardsticks industry. The difference between the demolition and restoration is approximately $5 million. My question is to my district councillor, Mr. Van Rotres. Since the financial numbers presented to the council prior to the vote to demolish are clearly misleading, should we not take the time for a closer examination and look at possible alternative construction methodologies to save costs?
So, thank you for your question, Mr. Pellicer. Mr. Von Wartz may want to answer this question. I will not. I've clearly stated that we were going to take pause on discussing this. This is the same material that we heard at that meeting earlier or middle of last month. So I'm not going to comment any further. We'll reflect as a council. I'll ask Mr. Von Royce if he wants to add any additional information.
May I have the droit de parole?
Vas-y.
So thank you for the question, Mr. Pellitzer, as well as your interest in the time you've invested in this project. I don't want to agree with the phrasing you've put in the question because I think that has ramifications for what I'm saying of the reports we received. What I will say is that the comments I heard Tuesday, one of the 2 Tuesdays ago, one of the things that resonated with me is ambiguity about some of those costs, which I think ties in with the point you're raising, and a request from folks for further refined costs. Because, I mean, for example, option 4 of demolition, it was stated that that was not a complete cost that was presented, that there would be additional costs. And I think that was the case for most of them. So to Mr. Mayor's point, until the council gets together and has a discussion about, so now that we've had that experience and we've received that feedback and we've spoken with other people, what's the path forward? But the voices expressed that Tuesday about questions about the costs and maybe needing further refinement to those costs is one that I've heard.
Yes, great. I'm glad you heard it. I hope that we can debate this further when it comes time to look at these numbers. I'm willing to sit down with the people who wrote those numbers and discuss the details technically with them, one-on-one.
Possible. May I speak, Mr. Mayor?
On the question.
I know. Last week when I said I'm going to make a complaint to the Commission Municipale du Québec, it's because I feel that we were, as a city council, misled. We didn't have all the reports available. We did not have the SIM report that was made. And
Mr. Boer, what's this have to do with the question, please?
Are
You're
you
talking about the SIM. Monsieur Pellicer has a totally different question. So can we speak to the question of, you have un droit de parole sur la question.
There's also a big book on how to run a meeting and not to cut anybody off like this and let them speak. This is a freedom of speech, okay, here. everybody has the right to talk without being.
Sure, and we have
So I'm
Régie
talking,
in town,
I'm- yeah,
which manages
I
a polite
follow it.
discussion.
I follow it. If I'm not following, mister, just say so.
And
So.
you're talking about costs.
Yeah, so we didn't have all the costs. But I think it's not only to 6 people to review that. I think what came out of the presentation last week is that everybody wants a public debate with all the real costs on the table. That's my point.
Question 2. I never received any responses or comments from my correspondence of last August 22nd and October 16th to the mayor, the council members, and the director general regarding the NFA PowerPoint presentation and the LeMay Michaud reports. Hopefully, I can only assume that everyone has understood my various points and understand and agree with me that these reports put the annex in a negative light without looking at positive points and avoided making any constructive comments for recycling the annex building. There were no comments for constructive at all. My question is directed to my district councilor, Mr. Van Rotres. Can we agree that a more exhaustive and unbiased study is required to better assess the full potential of this building and the entire site for community use before any vote is taken to demolish the annex?
So before I give Mr. Van Ort's the ability to respond, I'll just say that, you know, you state that it's an unbiased study. That's a matter of personal opinion.
I can prove it.
So I just, and that's fine. You've told us since day one.
Professionally?
That it's an unbiased study done by professional engineers who are fully qualified in their field. So I just want to point that out.
I'm also fully qualified in the field, and I talked to 2 professional engineers who are familiar with restoration work and have over 70 years' experience accumulatively. So
Okay.
I know what I'm talking about, Mr.
So
Mayor. and it's
I'm not
a-
going to get into a debate about whether you're.
Sure, you don't want to.
You're more, no. I respect everybody who has a professional license.
You know?
And
I
I
wanna
just
meet with
think
those
it would be
professionals.
odd that some people say they know more than others.
Well, I want to meet with you
Engineers
and the
are
council and
engineers.
the
I hope they're
professionals.
all qualified to say. So, Mr. Von Arts, go ahead.
So again, like the last question, I don't want to necessarily agree with the exact wording you've used because I think it has certain implications. But I think the point ties in with the previous point. I think depending what the outcome is from the council's discussion, you've reflected points that were raised on the Tuesday presentation meeting, which I think I heard and I hope that my colleagues heard as well.
Good, because I can prove my points if given the chance to prove them. And given the chance to prove them is with the professionals who wrote them, not this council. My third question is more of a statement than a question to the mayor. I would like to point out that at the council meetings of May and June 2022, just after the city purchased the 12 Dahlia site, the mayor confirmed that he would meet with the immediate neighbors of the site in July 2022 to hear their concerns. It was the right thing to do. A mayor should listen to the concerns of his citizens. However, I can only assume that the mayor's drive to demolish the annex was clearly influenced by his meeting with the neighbors who stand to gain by the demolition of the annex. And I question, are there minutes of this meeting? Well, before having heard the concerns of other citizens, as confirmed by the petition to save the annex building signed by hundreds of Dorval citizens. Last Tuesday evening, citizens clearly expressed their concerns on how the city has not given serious study to alternative uses of all 3 buildings and the entire site. I can only hope that the mayor and all the councilors will listen to the concerns of all their citizens and undertake a community-based study of the possible uses of the entire site, uses which must not change the current privacy of the neighbors. Such a study would take time and money, but would be well worth the cost. It has been done had this been done from the start, right after the purchase and the meeting with the neighbors, we would have saved 2 years of time and professional fees spent to date.
Okay, thank you for your question, Mr. Pellicer. I'll just say that, you know, I said I would crack down a little bit on how we run a meeting, and it is a question period, right? We all understand it's a question period, and that was not a question. I gave you the liberty to read it, But for next council meeting, I would prefer 3 questions.
Fine.
Thank you.
Question 5 comes from Madame Teresa Gladicki of 291 Enfield Circle. Question 1, RCM-601-2024 SASPAIP. The Dorval website says that the notice of motion was put forward and that SPAIP was adopted at the last council meeting. How is that we had a consultation on December 4th where our input was requested? Was the consultation all for nothing as the SPAIP was adopted before according to the website?
Mrs. Gladicki, I'm sorry, Mrs. Gladicki. There's a process that we need to follow. It starts with tabling the project. So the spate was tabled last month. The second step that we have to follow is a public consultation. And I believe that you were there at that consultation, you and about 16 other residents, which was good. And tonight, we will take a vote on the approval of that regulation. So that's the process. We table it. That says that we release the information to the public so that they can come to a follow-up consultation. And based on those discussions, council will approve or not approve the regulation. In this case, it's the spate regulation. So that's the process that we're following. We didn't approve last month. We're going to be doing that today. So, question number 2.
Question number 2. Has council come to a decision on 12 Dahlia? My recommendation would be to decide on what it will be used for. Put the necessary money into bringing it to code, and you will get future benefit from the building. Council should have some vision and look at the future benefits which could be added from this building. The city would save a lot of money from repurposing the building rather than demolishing it and starting over. As some citizens said, a lot of money is put into sport and maybe some should be put into arts and culture.
Thank you, Mrs. Gladicki, for your comments. They are duly noted. Council, I've read your questions, heard the questions, so we will reflect on that in the coming months. Thank you.
SPAIP omissions. There are many things that weren't included in this version of the SPAIP. I've written to urban planning on many of them. I would like to know why the naturalization of the Bouchard Creek is not included when you talked about doing this as far back as October 2022. I have emails from you, Mr. Mayor, with diagrams indicating exactly where the creek runs. I even met with you and Rachel Cournoyer. Regarding this, Monsieur Trudeau talked to one of my neighbors about the stream naturalization also. So why was it not included when you included stormwater retention, seepage into the soil and gutters from runoff as item, and the stream naturalization would help with these items? Showcasing of the Bouchard Creek is how you included it in the planning map of sectors and potential redevelopment or repurposing, yet it does not show in the SPAIP.
Thank you, Mrs. Gladicki. The spate is a general document that exists for the city as a whole, and we're not talking about specific projects. And I think there was some maybe confusion at the meeting the other night. Everybody seemed focused on 2 or 3 future projects of the city. The spate has nothing to do with the future projects per se. The spate has to do with how we deal with the integration of the surrounding environment around whatever is being changed, be it a house, be it a townhouse, be it a duplex, be it a 4-story building or a 10-story building. We remain committed to working with the property owner to look at bringing the Bouchard Creek to the surface. I think everyone is in agreement that that would be a good thing. I think what needs to be concluded is whether or not we can do it. And that is going to come a little bit further down the road, but we don't put that in the spate. That's a very unique situation for a very unique property. The spate is a general set of rules for the whole city. I remain committed to doing whatever we can to have the Bouchard Creek exposed. And if we can't, there will be some other solution that will be brought forth where there's possibly a stream that will create a buffer zone between your neighborhood and the Bell property. So I hope you see where I'm going with this. The spate is a bylaw, and the willingness to expose the Bouchard Creek is an initiative that we would like, and we're going to have to work with the developer to see how best to do that, and even if it's possible, because we now know that it's very, very deep at the back portion of the property. So we're going to have to find a balance, and that's going to come, but it's going to come in maybe 6 months or maybe a year. I don't know how fast that project is moving forward. Monsieur Rouleau, do you have anything else to add on that? No.
Question.
No.
Question 6 comes from Murray Louvain of 60 Taube Lake. Louvain. Okay, so talking through one's hat. At last November council meeting, you mentioned that Airport de Montréal, ADM, is a crown corporation. I am sorry, but the government of Canada disagrees with you. ADM is a non-profit, non-share capital corporation that is responsible for the management and development of both Montreal Pierre-Éliott Trudeau Airport and Montreal Mirabel International Airport. They are a tenant of the federal government and pay rent to the federal government. If you had no clue whatsoever what Aéroport de Montréal is, why did you talk through your hat and simply misinform everyone?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Levine. Monsieur Levine, so thank you for your question. I don't think there's anything to respond here.
Second question, Airport de Montréal is only a tenant. For months, I have asked you to threaten ADM with an injunction to limit the number of flights at the airport. This was one of the scientific recommendations made by Miguel Professor Aria with the health of Dorval residents in mind. In view of the fact that ADM is simply a tenant and not a branch of the federal government, will you now do what is fully in the best interest of the residents of Dorval and threaten the tenant ADM with an injunction to limit the number of flights at Trudeau Airport?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Levine. Look, this has been 2 years now that we've been answering the same question posed 24 different ways. So this will be the last time I answer these questions as per our regulations. I do not threaten people just for the sake of threatening people, especially higher levels of government. And I prefer to simply work with them and have discussions with them on a regular basis. That's the way we get things accomplished. Threatening them uselessly without a point does not make for very good relationships with our surrounding corporations. Thank you.
Third question, it would be impossible in the allotted amount of time for me to inform Dorval and all of its residents of the danger of what they all have been inhaling in the city for years. Due to Miguel Professor Aria's precise expertise, she was chosen to perform her study for Transport Canada. The National Research Council, NRC, didn't have anyone with her expertise to do the study. The NRC seemingly felt slighted, so for 3 years they have been trying to discredit the study. All this is childish behavior. As accomplished is to do further harms to the health of everyone in Dorval. There's a chart below.
I have the chart.
So the chart was created by the federal government and clearly confirms Professor Aria's finding that Dorval is the worst place for all life-threatening nanoparticle for area tested in Canada. In view of the fact that nanoparticles have been linked with cancer, cardiovascular disease, dementia, diabetes, hypertension, stillbirth, and birth defects. In view of the fact that procrastination is harming the health of the resident of Dorval, could you please recuse yourself from this matter and have only doctors and council deal with this situation for the benefit of the Dorval resident? If she isn't interested, could you please contact McGill and ask them to provide Dorval with an expert to guide the council?
Mr. Levine, again, we've answered this question many times. Professor Aria has presented her report and we've discussed this back in 23 with Mr. Von Roerts, has provided her report to the government, and as such, they are well aware of that information. So at this point, bringing her here to explain it to us, I'm not sure what that brings to us. We've discussed it, Mr. Von Roerts, with you in the past. It's a very specific report, and I'm certainly not qualified to speak about it, and I don't know if others are on the council. So I think it's best off that it's in the hands of the federal government so that they can evaluate it with their specialists and doctors and scientists that exist at their disposal. Thank you.
Question 7 comes from Madame Rachel Cournoyer of 170 McNichol Crescent.
The petition submitted to City Council contains more than 1,084 signatures. These numbers are greater than those received by the city during its survey of 2023. The petitions ask the city to stop the demolition of the annex building at 12 Dahlia and undertake a study of alternative community-based uses. A public consultation period is required. Possible options fully costed out should be presented to the public at the end of this phase. Will the mayor and council accede to the expressed wishes of Dorval citizens to, number 1, stop the demolition, number 2, undertake a serious study of alternative community uses, number 3, undertake a public consultation, number 4, cost out the options, and number 5, come back to us with the results?
So I think at this point, Mrs. Cournoyer, you know my position right now. We're going to take pause and we're going to reflect for at least through the end of the January and possibly even February.
So are you going to undertake a community consultation? Are you going to undertake a study of the alternative uses?
I thought I was pretty clear in my answer. I'm going to take pause and reflect on what we're going to do. The council members have been asked to do the same thing, and we'll come back in, as I said at the opening of this session, maybe as late as March.
Why would you delay this until March?
My answer remains the same, Mrs. Cournoyer. Question number 2, please.
On November 26th, during the presentation of the 5 options on 12 Dahlia, you had a room full of highly qualified people who found that the options presented were incomplete and highly flawed. What is the reaction to the feedback you received, and what are you going to do about it?
My answer remains the same, Mrs. Cournoyer. I'm going to take pause and reflect on that information, what the next steps are. Council are going to have to get together and reflect on what was said. There was a lot of things said that night, some not all the same. There were people with different points of view, so we'll have to reflect on that.
Are you going to dig yourself deeper into the hole, or are you going to climb out of it?
Interesting question, but my answer remains the same.
Okay, my third question is page 64 of the Lemay-Michaud Historical Expertise and Heritage Study of 12 Dahlia had the following recommendation: to produce a general conservation plan for the property with detailed plans for Quatre Vents residence, that was built in 1803, its extension by Désiré Giroir, 1874 to 1885, and Joshua Charles Ashe from 1927 to 1937, and the chapel, 1960. This is a good recommendation and one that should be completed before any demolition of the site is contemplated. The report was released on August 27th, which is more than 3 months ago. Why has the conservation plan not been prepared? And when will this recommendation be implemented? And what is the target date for the completion of the general conservation plan for 12 Dahlia?
Thank you for the question, Mrs. Cournoyer. Look, we find common ground here. Since 2022, I've said that this council had the intention to preserve this building, the house, the Quatre Vents, the chapel, and the property. That's what we've been saying since day one. And you're saying you'd like us to come up with a plan with detailed plans for the Quatre Vents residence, its extension, Désiré Giroir, and the chapel. That's exactly what we've been saying since day one.
This is not my recommendation, Maire Doré. It is the recommendation of the report that you paid $44,800 to
And we agree with
the
it.
Mamie Show. It's a recommendation of the Historical Expertise and Heritage Study.
Yeah.
If they're making that recommendation in the report that you released in August, it's that the conservation plan does not exist. And it was apparent at the November 26th meeting is that you have no idea what you're going to do with whatever it is that you're going to conserve. You don't know. You don't know what you're going to do with the grounds. So the conservation plan is way overdue. I don't know why this wasn't done right at the start. And something like that should be done before you undertake demolition. So when is it going to get done?
Okay, well, the good thing is that we agree that we want to save the property, the house over there and the chapel.
That you want to
But
save the property, Maire Doré, has never been an issue. What is at issue is what are the total costs going to be and what is it going to be used for?
Okay, well, my answer is the same as everybody else's answer. We're all going to reflect on it over the...
No, but you have a recommendation here made by a report that you commissioned, which was given to you in August. Are you going to wait 3 months to decide what you're going to do with it?
I'm going to have a discussion with the council, whatever time it takes, Mrs. Cournoyer.
But it's been 3 months already.
It's been 2 years, we're having the same fight. So,
This is a recommendation from a report that you commissioned
Okay.
at a very high price to the Dorval taxpayer.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Cournoyer. I've answered the question.
You haven't, deliberately.
Question number 8 comes from Monsieur Alan Burlack of 950 Lakeshore.
Vas-y, Monsieur Leroux, vous pouvez le lire. Vas-y, Monsieur Leroux, vous pouvez le lire.
Donc, la question est écrite en français. Question 1, 300 000 de taxes gaspillées. La Ville a perdu leur cas contre ma famille. Ça doit avoir coûté à la Ville de Dorval 300 000 Qui sera retenu responsable à la Ville pour cette dépense injustifiée et qui sera congédié?
You can go ahead and read questions 2 and 3 as well.
OK. Question 2. L'arrogance ne couvre pas pour l'incompétence. La Ville est poursuivie pour récupérer l'argent qu'elle a forcé un citoyen à dépenser pour se défendre. Aussi, il y aura des frais punitifs. Ça peut coûter à la Ville jusqu'à 1 million de dollars. Est-ce que la Ville va négocier et faire une offre? Question 3.
Il n'y en a pas de question 3.
Il n'y a pas de question 3.
Okay, Mr. Burlash, I read your questions, which I didn't do last month. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. However, my answer remains the same as last month. I don't discuss active legal cases in public.
I believe the first question does not refer to an active legal case.
I'm not sure about that, Mr. Burlash.
No, please, it's very plain. I'm asking
I'll
you,
ask,
the city made a mistake. They launched a futile, silly, stupid case. I've spent $200,000 on my legal fees. I imagine you spent more, because that's the nature of the beast. So who is responsible? Are you gonna defend yourself with the same lawyers and lose $1 million this time around? But that's another case. That's a future case. You don't have to discuss it. But at least, is anybody going to take the fall for this? In private industry, when you lose a company or a business $300,000, someone gets fired. It's just everybody's money is nobody's money. These folks, it doesn't matter that you spent $300,000 foolishly? Foolishly. And no one is responsible?
Mr. Berlache, I'm going to be quite clear. We are finishing one case, and you're starting a new case, and I will
I'm
not
asking
discuss.
you to comment on the last case.
And
I'm not asking you to comment on the next case.
Discuss the
I'm asking you
cases.
for common sense on the next case, but apparently,
I will-
listen,
Mr. Berlache.
apparently this council, this administration
Miss-
believes that arrogance covers incompetence.
Can we turn off the microphone, please?
No, sir,
In the back?
that's unfair. This is not Russia, sir. Mr. Bo was correct. Democracy is not clean, it's not pretty, and it's not polite. You don't have to be polite, Mr. Mayor. There's no law against being polite in Canada. There's no law against it.
Mr. Berlache,
I sent you today a letter addressed to you personally. Did you get it, sir? Did you read it?
Mr. Berlache, I would ask you to refrain from yelling and screaming, and to,
Sir, you turned off the microphone.
and to not-
How about you turn back on the microphone and then I won't have to shout? How obnoxious, how outrageous of you, sir.
Mr. Berlache, I'm going to ask you again to please settle down. I don't need to be intimidated. I don't need to be spoken at a high pitch like that. Just ask your question. I will answer it. Whether you like it or not, that's up to you to decide. Est-ce qu'on peut allumer le micro de monsieur en arrière, s'il vous plaît?
I asked you simply a question. Who is responsible for having the city waste $300,000? It's not an inconsequential sum. I know it's our money. These folks work hard for their money. $300,000 gone because, tell me why. You didn't have a prayer in court. You had no chance. You sent witnesses who were mute.
Mr. Berlache, I'm not going to discuss any of your legal cases in public.
Excuse me, it's my legal case. You wasted $300,000. Folks, do you want the mayor to tell us how I'm going to ask you folks, should he tell you how he wasted $300,000 of your money?
OK.
How much taxes
On
do
va
you folks
couper le
pay?
micro en arrière, s'il vous plaît. Mr. Berlache, I'm going to ask you to sit down. I've answered your question.
I'm only going to say one more thing. Mr. Mayor, this is not Russia, and I sent you a letter this afternoon. Your behavior here, quite frankly, is intolerable. It's intolerable. This is a democracy. I pay your salary, you don't pay mine. And I'm sorry sometimes if things get a little messy, that's democracy. It ain't Russia here. It ain't Russia. I'm asking you to comment on why, listen, I guess I said it all. Your arrogance covers up your incompetence. Cut me off. You know what I told you? I insist. I will, if you refuse.
Mr. Berlache, can you please sit down? Mr. Berlache, the microphones.
I didn't cut you off. Feel free to.
Mr. Berlache, can you please sit down and you can come back to the microphone later and ask your question?
Why? Why can't I speak now?
Because, Mr. Berlache, I've told you.
Call the police. You're not the police. Feel free to call the police and have me ejected. And you, the mayor, will tell the police why I'm being ejected. Folks, do you think I should stop? I think, okay, everyone is asking for an answer. answer, why did you waste $300,000?
Mr. Berlash, I'm going to ask you to, I'm going to ask you to sit down, and if you would like to come to the microphone at the end of this question period, I will answer you with the exact same answer, that I will not discuss your case. Right now, the microphone's not on, and the public doesn't know what you're...
I asked you to discuss a past case. A past case, it's over. Est-ce qu'il peut me mettre le micro? OK. Bon, mettez le micro, je vais baisser ma voix.
On va allumer le micro de monsieur en arrière. Mr. Berlash, I ask you one last time to be calm, be respectful, and not yell and
You
scream.
know, there is, first of all, Mr. Mayor, with all due respect, there is no law that I have to be polite. Democracy is messy. I think it was Winston Churchill who said, democracy is the worst form of government until you compare it with all the others. That's what democracy is about. Mr. Bro has a right to speak. I have a right to speak. I'm sorry, you're the mayor. You have to listen. And you want to know something? You may not want to listen to my questions because they're embarrassing to you. But the people of the city have the right to hear it, and the
Mr.
people of the
Berlash,
council have a right to hear it.
Mr. Berlash, in this council chamber, you cannot speak with violent language, language that hurts or is irrespectful. And I ask you politely.
Which law is that? Excuse me. I
That's
forgot
our
which
internal
law is
rules
again.
of the
Which law
city.
does it say that I have to do those? I have to be polite. Did I use bad language? Did I use a swear
On va
word?
couper le micro. So we're going to take pause of this session tonight. At this point, we're going to cut the microphone for Mr. Berlash. I've answered the question, and we'll take a 3-minute break. Bon, Monsieur Berlache a quitté la salle, donc on va aller à la prochaine question, numéro 8, Monsieur Alan Berlache.
Non, la question numéro 9, Monsieur le maire. Michael Yoram Berlache,
C'est vrai.
du 960 Lakeshore. Donc, la première question de Monsieur Michael Yoram est nouveau développement versus les revenus à Dorval. Westar et Sargaki ont construit des nouveaux édifices complexes à Dorval. Combien de nouveaux revenus taxes la ville va-t-il percevoir sur ces immeubles? La deuxième question est en lien. Donc, baisse de taxes. Suite aux nouveaux revenus, est-ce que la maire prévoit une baisse de taxes municipales pour les citoyens de Dorval?
Mr. Berlache, yeah, it is. It's, they're two members of the same family. We're still waiting for the evaluations on those properties in question. If you contact the city clerk's office, they will check whether or not we do have it. I believe that we do not yet. It's a fairly long process after they open, after the buildings open. But we'll check for you if you make that request. And in regards to the budget speech, as you know, in the room and at home, the budget was approved last week, and I'll take a moment to answer your question, which is just a part of the speech that we read last Monday. And it starts with Section 2, Augmentation de compte de taxes résidentielles. Tel que nous avons déclaré aux citoyens lors de l'élection en 2021, notre principale préoccupation concerne les comptes de taxes pour les propriétés résidentielles. Il me fait plaisir de vous confirmer ce soir que malgré une hausse de l'indice de prix de la consommation ou l'inflation de 2,5 et en 2024, malgré une augmentation de notre budget de 2025 de 6,5 et un dépit de la progression de notre quote-part, nous avons réussi à confectionner un budget avec une augmentation de compte de taxes résidentielles moyenne qui s'avère inférieure à 1 soit 0,9 pour être précis. Ce taux s'applique autant aux édifices de 5 logements et moins et pour ceux de 6 logements et plus. Cette faible augmentation de compte de taxes résidentielles à Dorval pour 2025 fait suite à une 5 réductions et un gel de compte de taxes depuis 2017. Cela démontre, encore une fois, notre compétence à assurer une gestion rigoureuse des fonds publics et à offrir aux citoyens une constance dans la qualité de nos services tout en respectant la capacité de payer de nos contribuables. Pour amoindrir l'effet de la forte hausse des valeurs foncières du dernier rôle d'évaluation, le conseil municipal poursuit l'étalement des valeurs comme l'an dernier. So to paraphrase Mr. Berlache, the city has a average tax rate increase of 0.9%. It applies on single-family homes, buildings of 5 apartments or less, and the same for buildings 6 apartments or more. It's an average rate. I mean, some people might have a slight increase, some people may have a slight decrease. An indicator of that would be what you had last year. At 0.9%, I'm pretty confident that we're probably one of the lowest tax municipalities in 2025, and I think that that is really something important to state, and I thank the council for all their work and the administration for their rigor in managing our budgets. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
The last question comes from Madame Vicky Jones of 350 Lakeshore Boulevard. Question 1 is council resolution. Last council meeting, when the SIM report was revealed and showed there was no condemnation from the fire department for the annex of 12 Dahlia, during discussion, Councillor Bro said that The Director General said that it was the city who made the claim of condemnation, which the DG had also said previously. However, I have looked through the minutes of the council meeting to find a resolution to this effect as required by law, and have not found one. I may be mistaken. Question: which date was the resolution by council to condemn the annex?
So, thank you for your question, Mrs. Jones. I think we've answered this repeatedly over the course of the evening. There's no resolution that will be voted on today, and council will come back in the new year after contemplating all the comments that were made at the last meeting regarding 12 Dahlia.
May I speak, Mr. Mayor?
You can.
I don't think we answered the question from Madame Jones. She's asking, is there a resolution that the city council made to condemn the building?
And I answered it. I said
And-
there's no resolution.
No, you said there will be no resolution tonight.
There's no resolution tonight.
Yeah, but that's not the question. The question was, you condemned the building. Was there any resolution on condemnation du building? No.
There's no resolution on condemning the building either. It's not condemned. Yeah, I mean, it's not condemned in the terms that you guys,
Ben, c'est la première fois que j'entends la vérité. Ben, je vous remercie. Okay? First time I hear the truth. The building has never been condemned. Yeah.
It's
So-
never been condemned in
No.
the manner that you all refer to it being condemned. I have clearly said tonight that we have a discussion with the SIM that says that we are allowed, and a confirmation in email that we're allowed to use this room 12 times a year.
So the building was, so answer to Madame Jones, the building was never condemned, okay? And this was all a big confusion from the beginning. And now you're saying we add only a verbal agreement, and now tonight we have a written argument, a written permission. Can I have the written permission? I ask it for so many times. Can I have it, please? And I am allowed. I'm a city councilor. So can you stop keeping all the information for yourself, and it should be shared to all city councilors.
Monsieur Brault, on n'a pas de problème. Partagez le courriel. Il est
Merci.
quand même assez récent. Et je vais répéter encore que l'entente qu'on a avec le CIM depuis 2022 et qu'on a permission d'utiliser cette salle 12 fois par année. Et si on décide d'utiliser n'importe quelle autre partie de cet édifice, ça impliquerait un changement de l'usage et donc ça impliquerait qu'on devrait conformer à le code de bâtiment. On a dit ça depuis tout le temps, là. Utiliser le mot condamné, pas condamné, c'est rien à faire avec la discussion. On est en train de dire la même chose depuis 2022.
So in 2022, you had a verbal agreement since the beginning with the SIM to use for 12 times a year this room only. This is why I try to understand. It's so confusing, the back and forth.
It's
So
not confusing.
Since
Let me explain.
2022, you had a verbal agreement with the SIM to use that room 12 times a year. And now you said you just add something on paper and then you're going to reveal it to the city council. Is that clear? Is that what the truth is?
Mr. Brault, we spent the better part of 45 minutes.
I'm just asking a
briefing
simple
you.
question. Is that it, the real story or not? Since 2022, you had a verbal agreement with the SIM, and now you're saying you have a new written agreement with the SIM to use it 12 times a year. Is that simple or not? Yes,
I
no?
would be- Mr.
Is that the real story, yes or no?
Will you let me
Is
answer?
it?
Okay, Mr. Bro, thank you. No, but you won't let me answer. Can I answer? Okay. We spent 45 minutes explaining to you all the information that Monsieur Rouleau has on this subject. We've been clear, we've been transparent with you. We've been using the building since 2022, and we continue to use it today. And we are allowed to use it in the future with the blocks remaining the way they are. And I don't know what's more clear than that.
No, and listen to me. Do you, since 2024, had a verbal agreement with the SIM, yes or no, for to use that room 12 times a year? Yes? No.
Mr. Bro, we've been using the room since 2022. I don't want, well, what else we can say?
You don't want to say.
Secretly sneak
You
into
don't.
the
You don't
building.
want to say yes or no. So it's been 3 times I repeat the question, and clearly tonight you're not answering the question. Yes or no?
I
Do you
answered.
have the verbal agreement since
I've answered
2000?
it many
No,
times.
you never answered it, and now you're saying you have a new written agreement. Can we see it?
Monsieur Rouleau will provide it to you.
Okay, so, and the verbal agreement, you had it since 2022, 12 times a year. That's what you had. It's so clear. Yes, we had it. No, we didn't have it.
Monsieur Bro, if we didn't have it, we wouldn't be in the building, now would we?
So can you say yes?
I've said since the very beginning, we've been able to use this building since 2022.
You're not saying we had a verbal agreement. You know, it's as clear as that.
I don't know what there is to answer. We've been
Yes,
using,
yes, I'm just
we've
telling
been
you.
using this building since 2022.
Look, I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher, Mr. Doré. All you have to do is say yes or no. And sometimes for young people, it's hard. But for people who are honest, it's easy. Yes, we had the verbal agreement since 2022, or no. Okay. So clearly, you don't want to tell the truth.
We're moving on. Was there any other questions?
Yes,
Mr.
there's
Legault?
2 more questions from Madam Jones. So the second question is on 2.3 Park Master Plan. In your mandate to Stantec, approved in April 2023 at a cost of $170,000, you said within your objective, item number 3, issue and concerns. The City of Dorval is experiencing a certain delay in upgrading and updating its equipment and infrastructure. Expectation for this planning tool are therefore high and schedule tight so as not to exacerbate this delay and be able to meet the needs of the population. New residential towers are already under construction and more are under development, leading to population growth and greater demands for service. Why has this taken over a year? 1 year and 9 months to be exact, to produce this document.
Mrs. Jones, thank you for the question. I can't speak to why it's taking so long. I know that there's been changes in the directors in sports and leisure, so that's probably a big part of why it's taking so long. At the time that the Stantec contract was given out, 12 Dahlia was not a sports and leisure property. It was in fact a civic building, similar to the same category as the City Hall. We don't have the City Hall in the Stantec study either. So at this point, I don't think anyone thought that it was important. We had no use for it at that time. It wasn't a defined use anyways. And there was always reflections on what was going on with the property. That's as basic as it comes for us. It wasn't a public space like a park, and so it wasn't included. Could that be changed and reviewed in the future? Absolutely. I'm not sure when that will be, however. Next question.
Okay. Est-ce que je peux parler, s'il vous plaît?
Vous pouvez parler, Monsieur Beau.
Okay. You always said that this would be a green space, and now you're saying the opposite. We had a resolution that I brought forward, and the city council voted on it, and we voted yes, it should be included in the parks and building plan. The next day, what did you do? You vetoed it, and I don't know how. Everybody else changed their mind, and now it cannot be in the parks plan. It's a building, okay? How many buildings, how many leisure building is there on Dorval Avenue for Garden Crescent, Boulevard Bouchard, all the east section of the city? How many?
Tonight, I don't have the information in front of me.
Well,
Mr.
it's easy, 0. and this had a potential, and all those citizens are asking is a public debate to see what kind of needs there are in the city, and what can we do with a building like this. That building here, apparently, it costs $18 million if we want to rebuild one. And right now, we can never talk. At the presentation, I was told, sit in the corner, don't ever talk. It's a citizen that talk. Here, we cannot talk. At the caucus meeting, for 2 years, I've been asking to talk about it. No, it's not the time. And when it was the time, here's the PowerPoint slides. Go, read it, and then vote on it right away. We were misled. We were missing a lot of information. That's why I voted against it. I brought forward a resolution for 12 Dahlia to be included in the parks plan and the building, leisure building plans. The city council voted for, but the next day, I don't know how, veto, and everybody changed their mind. Yeah?
Can I speak? So I just want to correct something, Monsieur Brou, because I've heard this a few times, that I vetoed a resolution that wasn't to your liking. Let's remember that a mayor, when he vetoes a resolution, that means it goes back to council for discussion. It can be rewritten, which is exactly what would happen, and it came back to the next month's council where there was a vote of the council. So to say that it was vetoed and not explain that it was voted on by the council at the next month leads to an inference that somehow I just took a resolution and took it out of the board, never to do anything with it, and I'm the nasty guy. The fact of the story is there was a resolution done that day. There was a lot of modifications. It wasn't clear what was going on in that discussion. I vetoed it so that we would stop that discussion. We then had a subsequent discussion in council, caucus, and a new resolution came forward the following month, fully respecting the law in Quebec, and we had a vote. And unfortunately, your point of view was not supported by the council.
No, thank you, because we're on the same page. You vetoed it, yes or no? Yes.
I
And then
did an administrative process which puts a stop, which is a veto, called a veto.
A veto
which
means
stops the resolution, but it must come back to council the next month.
I know.
Which is what we did with your modifications
I know.
included, and
That's what
it
a
didn't
veto.
pass.
Everybody knows what a veto is. The mayor can put a veto. That's what you did, and it came back to the next resolution, next city council. It's the law.
That's right, and we had a vote.
I'm just explaining the fact
So-
that with your veto, you stop 12 Dahlia to be on that parks plan, so citizens can have the right to talk and discuss, is there a value to this building and everything.
Okay.
That's what a veto is, and the next city council, it came on the table again, and the city council decided to change their vote and vote against it all of a sudden. I respect democracy, but I think we have to respect the truth and tell the truth.
Do we have any more questions?
Yeah, there's one last one. So again, it's regarding 2.3 approval of the master plan park, etc. In the mandate the city gave to Stantec for this master plan, there were several guidelines for the park and cultural building. Example below. Develop an inventory of park and building under review, including all facilities. Develop an inventory the parks and building under review, including all facilities. Community, cultural, and tourism building and infrastructure. Cultural or tourism building. Dorval History and Heritage Museum. Peter B. Human Cultural Center. Dorval Library. Serge Nollet Auditorium at Jean 23 High School. Community buildings. Sarto des Noyers Community Center. Surrey Aquatic and Community Center. I also enclosed the inventory of park, leisure, and culture building in Dorval. Question: why is the property and heritage building of 12 Dahlia left off and not included in these lists and notation? Why did you veto a resolution to include it in the master plan for park as well as leisure and culture building?
So I think we spent a big part of the last 5 minutes discussing that. Why is it not in the list? Well, because we don't have a defined use for this building. And once we have a defined use for this building, then we'll update our documentation accordingly. So with that, we will terminate question period.
May I speak, Mr. Mayor, on this
Thank you
one?
very much. No, we're going to move on, Monsieur Bourg.
No,
Oh, we have
I
one
the
more
right.
resident?
No, I have the right to speak on this one.
We have a resident.
Can you take a copy at the beginning of the rules of how to proceed this, and then let people talk? No,
I would like the
if you
resident
move
to ask this
on,
question.
then you're not going against our rule. We have a rules of régie interne, and I ask politely to have it.
I would like the gentleman to ask his question.
So you're not following your own rules.
Would you like to talk again, Monsieur Bourg?
No, but
No, go
well,
ahead.
go grab a paper at the beginning and read how the rules should be.
Okay,
That's democracy.
Okay, Monsieur Bourg,
So
go ahead.
you're taking away democracy.
Will you have the privilege. Do you want to talk? Yes or no?
On as so aggressive like this, I think I'm going to skip because
Perfect.
you're so aggressive.
Perfect.
Last question, very short, sorry. Just clarifying for Dahlia. Dahlia property, the convent of Dahlia was purchased by this
Mr.
administration?
Malish, can you just speak your name and give the city clerk your address, please?
Yes, Mike Nalich, Mimosa Avenue, Dorval.
Sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm coming back with Dahlia again. The whole convent of Dahlia that so many people are concerned about. This started when? Did this start with the old administration, or this was? I know it closed on the 22 or June 22nd, but it started in this administration or the old?
I would say that we had heard about the potential sale of the property in 2021. I can't say to when exactly. So it was at the very tail end
Of the past administration?
of the past administration, but we may have been in an election in the election period at the time. Okay. I don't remember the exact month that we passed the resolution, but it was in 2020, summer of 2022, I believe.
Correct, okay, and there's this administration. Okay, but now you're saying that you're putting, council is going on pause. You have a resolution already on hand, and if I understand it correctly, council made a decision to ask the city to do planning and for the demolition and for how to, and to do it the safest way. Has the city or administration been given instructions to put everything on pause and not spend any more money on this?
So we passed a resolution of intent to demolish. I know people don't like that term, but it has a very specific use. And it wasn't a demolish. It wasn't a resolution to demolish. It was an intent to demolish, and that it sends a message to the administration that they can take the steps to prepare information that would guide the council in making it a final decision. That's what we did. What we're doing now is just taking a pause. That's it. We're going to reflect on the discussions that were had at that last meeting. You know, everybody seems to think that it was all of the same point of view. It was not. There were some people at the room who would say they would like to see the property demolished. There was even someone who did say it, and I know there were others there who were thinking it. There were other people who were saying other things as well. And so we need to step back, slow down the process, and really understand what the 60 or so people said that day. And to do it in a rush over the last few weeks while we're trying to prepare a budget, while we have events on a daily basis, is just not the way to do it. It just doesn't lend itself to a proper reflection.
But I'm not hearing from you that you're stopping the process for the city, because it says here in the resolution on the 15th of April.
Well, there's nothing more for the city to do right now. We haven't given them any directions to do anything.
Well, you gave them instructions, very clear instructions. Que le conseil confirme par la présente résolution son accord à ce que les démarches requises soient planifiées pour assurer la démolition sécuritaire de l'annexe construite en 1965, la conservation de les parties originales du bâtiment, incluant la chapelle, et l'aménagement du site qui sera libéré suivant la démolition de l'annexe. This is clear instructions provided to the city by council, by a decision of council, to demolish the annex.
No.
You're saying that council has decided to pause the decision, to make a final decision. No, this is what it's read. This is.
Mr. Nalish, what we did is pass a resolution for intent, which provided the administration to prepare the engineering reports, the architectural reports, the historical reports. That's what it provided us. It gave us that option.
Okay.
We're not if we want to demolish, we will have to have a resolution to demolish the annex. So we're not there. All we've done is set in a process where the administration can prepare the required documents so that council can make an educated, enlightened decision about the future. What I'm saying now is that we had a presentation. We followed steps. We had certain reports done. Then we had architectural documents done. We had engineering reports, a historical study, and then we had a presentation of what some of those costs would look like if we conserve the building. And what I was actually saddened to not hear the other day was any discussion on the three proposals that kind of, I was hoping would spark people's imagination as to what something else would look like. Because everybody talks about, we could do this, we could do that, but no one at that meeting spoke to the three ideas that we proposed. So here we are. We're going to take a moment to reflect on where we're going. I will do that with the council in January and February, and we will come back to the public with some sort of, I imagine, a plan.
Parce que normalement, c'est le conseil qui décide, fait une décision pour diriger l'administration. Vous avez dit que vous faites une pause de décision du conseil, mais vous n'avez pas mis de décision pour mettre en pause à l'administration. C'est très clair. Le conseil de Dorval est encore en faveur pour la démolition de l'annexe. C'est ça qu'il y a dans la résolution.
Ça, c'est ton interprétation, c'est la vôtre, là, mais je pense que j'ai bien expliqué ma position ce soir. Okay.
Est-ce que je peux parler? La population de Dorval pense que depuis le début, le processus n'est pas honnête et authentique. Est-ce que vous pouvez nous dire ce soir, M. le maire, que les ordres pour démolir l'annexe ont commencé seulement après la résolution du Conseil votée au mois d'avril? Parce que c'est ça que le monde pense. Que tout ça, là, c'est smoke and mirror. You know? Que tout ça, là, a été décidé dès le début. Alors, pouvez-vous confirmer qu'il n'y a pas eu d'ordre avant la résolution du Conseil? Moi, je vais l'accepter, la résolution du Conseil du mois d'avril. C'est la démocratie. Vous avez voté là-dessus. Mais avant, tout le monde pense ici que c'est fait depuis le début. Since the beginning, we bought the place, you gave orders. Can you say tonight that nothing was done until the resolution voted by council on the April 24? And I respect democracy. If this is what the council voted, I'll respect it. But people think that since the beginning, orders were given to destroy that annex and move on. So can you say tonight to reassure all the population that you respect democracy, and since the beginning you did not give orders, you waited for the resolution voted in April 2024. So that question is clear, and this way you reassure the population that there's a real democracy here, and it's not a one-man show that decides as soon as we bought it. Orders were given to get rid of the annex.
So I'm gonna ask you, Monsieur Beau, you've been a council member since 2021. Did we ever discuss anything that reminds you that I gave orders to the administration to do work on this? On a demolition?
Since the beginning, you said the annex has been condemned, it's too dangerous, and we cannot get into. And that's not the point. My question is, did you give orders to the DG, or orders were given to the fonctionnaire, directeur de la ville, to plan right away from the start to demolish the annex, and it was a done deal. That's what the population thinks from the start. That's why there's a lack of trust in our democracy. So just reassure the public.
Okay, so you've been a sitting councillor since 2021, and so you know exactly all the discussions you have. Let's not pretend that I did something improper. I'm asking
I
you.
did not say that. I said reassure the public, because the public, what they think is it's smoke and mirrors. You know, le processus n'a jamais été établi. La population pense que depuis le début, vous avez pris la décision de démolir l'annexe, puis de donner des ordres, puis depuis le début, les fonctionnaires sont en train de planifier la démolition du building. Répondez à ça, réassurez le public que vous avez attendu au moins que le conseil vote au mois d'avril la résolution pour voter.
Okay. So c'est très clair, M. Brault, que l'administration n'avait pas eu des directives du maire, comme vous voulez faire penser au monde, et qu'ils ont seulement travaillé sur les dossiers, sur les rapports, suite à notre résolution. Et vous le savez, la réponse, M. Brault, parce que vous êtes un conseiller.
C'est ça que la population pense.
Est-ce que moi, je peux parler pour un moment, M. Brault?
Je vais juste vous le dire.
Et vous le savez, là, je pense que vous commencez à brasser un peu, parce que vous êtes un conseiller et vous étiez là dans nos discussions, et vous savez quand on a fait les résolutions pour faire les études patrimoniales, les études avec les architectes, avec l'ingénierie et tout ça, tu étais là. Donc, tu sais exactement, M. Brault, que ça s'est fait seulement après qu'on a fait la résolution. Donc, moi maintenant, M. Brault, je pense, vous pouvez me poser la question, mais je pense que vous êtes là pour juste brasser un peu, parce que vous savez très bien que la réponse était, il n'y a aucun travail qui a été donné par le maire avant que la résolution ait été faite. Donc, on va clore la question de période avec ça. Et on va aller à l'agenda. Merci à tout le monde. Dans la salle. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions dans la salle?
Monsieur le maire?
Oui.
Je pourrais avoir droit de parole?
Oui, vous avez.
2 minutes, pas plus, sur le même sujet. Tous les conseillers sont au courant que ça prend une résolution qui devrait permettre à la cité d'obtenir des plans et devis de démolition, surtout si on parle de l'ordre de 1 million. On n'a jamais rien approuvé en plans et devis pour aller en soumission pour une démolition. On attend tout simplement d'avoir pris la décision concernant le building. Alors, je ne vois pas pourquoi vous dites que l'administration est guérie pour démolir. Ils n'ont pas le droit. Ça prend une résolution qui serait faite suite à une demande de plans et devis. Merci.
Ouais, monsieur, Monsieur Trudeau, vous savez très bien que l'administration fait beaucoup de travail avant même la résolution. Mais oui, vous avez travaillé pour la ville pendant longtemps. Mais
Oui,
oui.
donc.
Puis on arrive à la résolution, puis il y a beaucoup de travail qui a été fait.
OK, M. Gros,
c'est ça.
je pense qu'on commence à se répéter. On va continuer. M. Von Ritz.
C'est juste un point d'ordre je ne crois pas, et c'est vous le président qui décide, je ne crois pas qu'on est sur la réponse de la question qui a été posée.
Non. Et je pense que c'est le temps de continuer avec la session. Je vais juste demander une dernière fois s'il y a des questions dans la salle. Sinon, on va passer au point 2.1. C'est ça. Merci. 2.1, approbation de procès-verbal de la séance ordinaire tenue le 18 novembre 2024.
Monsieur le maire, je propose d'approuver le procès-verbal de la séance ordinaire tenue le 18 novembre 2024, ainsi que les procès-verbaux des séances extraordinaires de 18h30 et de 18h45 tenues le 2 décembre 2004, tels que rédigés.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
2.2, déclaration d'intérêt pécuniaire de membres du conseil.
Monsieur le maire, je donne avis de donner acte d'un dépôt des déclarations d'intérêt pécuniaire des membres du conseil conformément aux articles 357 et 358 de la loi sur les élections et les référendums dans les municipalités LRQ CE-2.2.
Merci. 2.3.
Sur le 2.2, je voulais juste mentionner que la question du monsieur tantôt, c'est là qu'on fait nos dépositions, de notre déclaration. So, to the question, to the I don't know who asked the question, we have to declare all our interest and on a formula, and it's public if people wants to have it.
2.3, approbation du plan directeur des parcs et de bâtiments de loisirs et culture.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, ce serait pour approuver les plans des directeurs de parcs et de bâtiments de loisirs et culture tels que soumis par la firme Stantex Expert Conseil Limité.
J'appuie.
J'aimerais s'en discuter.
Est-ce que... Allez-y, M. Beau.
J'aimerais s'en discuter avec le conseil si on trouve que le processus a été bien fait. Et on a dit c'était dans un court délai qu'on voulait ça. On a dit qu'on voulait avoir les pistes, le plan des pistes cyclables, le plan des corridors scolaires. On a dit qu'on voulait avoir les besoins des nouveaux arrivants parce qu'il y a énormément de nouvelles populations sur l'avenue Dorval, sur le boulevard Bouchard, sur Garden Crescent. On voulait avoir une équité pour les différents secteurs puis nos différentes clientèles. Est-ce que le conseil trouve qu'on a respecté ça, que ça a été rapide? Est-ce qu'on a évalué les nouveaux besoins? Est-ce qu'on a inclus tout? Le terrain des travaux publics, c'est un terrain qui va devenir disponible. Qu'est-ce qu'on fait avec ça? Le terrain ici, du 12 Dahlia, magnifique terrain. Est-ce que ça a été dans la consultation? Non. Les îles Bushy, Dixie, peut-être que je me trompe dans les noms, est-ce qu'ils ont été dans les consultations? Non. Est-ce qu'il y a des terrains, des espaces verts qu'on a à Dorval qu'on aurait pu valoriser puis mettre dans la consultation? Non. Est-ce qu'il y a des bâtiments de loisirs dans tous les secteurs de la ville? Non. Donc, est-ce que nos populations, nos besoins de la population, est-ce qu'il y a une équité envers les besoins de la population? Il y a une concentration dans l'Ouest. Puis c'est normal qu'il y ait une concentration sur un pôle civique. Mais il faut que tout le monde ait accès à des bâtiments de loisirs et à des espaces verts. Puis c'est ça qu'il fallait regarder. Puis savoir que si ils n'ont pas accès, comment on peut faire des chemins pour les mettre sécuritaires, pour que des enfants se promènent de parc en parc. C'était ça qui était le but, une réflexion là-dessus. Il y a eu beaucoup de directives qu'on n'a pas pu en parler de ça. Donc, je vous demande la question. C'est une discussion.
Je vais mentionner, premièrement, après ça, je vais laisser M. Rouleau, M. Von Ritz parler. On n'a pas besoin de répondre à les propos de M. Brault. Moi, je suis un peu déçu, là, M. Brault, que vous venez aujourd'hui, après 1 an et demi de discussion, pour dire qu'on a plein de problèmes avec notre document. Je penserais que vous auriez amené ça il y a longtemps, mais quand même. Monsieur Von Wertz?
Monsieur
have
le
the
maire,
floor?
moi, j'ai demandé d'être sur le
Apparently
comité,
not.
puis
Monsieur Brault,
qu'est-ce que
j'ai-
vous avez dit?
Monsieur Brault,
Je refuse que Pascal Brault soit sur le comité. Et j'ai demandé c'est qui décide. Vous avez dit c'est moi qui décide, là, monsieur le maire. Puis toi, Pascal Brault, tu ne seras pas le comité. C'est moi qui va mettre les gens que je veux sur le comité. Donc, on va en prendre puis on va en laisser. Hein?
vous êtes... il n'y a personne qui était membre du plan, les discussions de plan directeur, et vous savez très bien que vous êtes membre du comité de parc. Monsieur Von Wertz?
See, now I'm thrown off because I feel like we're being asked to give opinions and then we're being cut off. So I'm not sure if I have a role as a councillor to be able to express my opinion when invited to or not. So I'm very frustrated by that. So I'm going to not
Well,
respect the role.
But you can
Thank you. Welcome to the club. This is my life since 3 years, Chris, here. So when you want to talk with the mayor, you can have fully discussion. When I want to talk, never. So thank you for understanding me.
I think Mr. Von Roy's concern is the fact that you continuously and constantly interrupt our discussions.
Are you talking about you?
No, I'm talking about you, and you follow zero decorum during our meeting. So I will ask again to Mr. Von Royce, do you want to express yourself? Or?
I'll try. Je comprends que votre intervention, M. Brault, a été faite en français, mais vu que Mme Jones a posé question là-dessus, je vais répondre en anglais. There are a number of points that I think are met with this plan and others that were not included. And some of those were flagged prior, and maybe they were or weren't included in the plans and devis, and others I think were raised as the project advanced. Ultimately, tonight we have to make a decision whether we adopt it or not. I'm strongly in favor of adopting it so that we have a plan. As Mrs. Jones highlighted, it's already potentially long overdue, certainly longer than we originally anticipated. But I don't think the adoption of tonight means that, well, that's it. We're never going to reflect on parks further going forward. So you mentioned the Ballantyne property. I think it's an excellent example. I think it would have been premature to include not the existing Ballantyne Park, but the potential use of that site going forward exhaustively, because we don't know exactly what that'll look like or the time frame it'll take, depending on funding and a lot of other moving parts to moving public works. So I am in favor of adopting it as soumis, but I do think the council should be active in looking to review and renew this plan or incorporate new venues, new parks, new other sites, and incorporate as we go forward and have cycling master plans, which we don't have at this time. So I am comfortable adopting this. I appreciate some of the concerns you've raised and some of the things that are lacking, but I am in favor of voting for it because I think it's a starting point that took us a little while, but from there we can build for further additions.
Thank you, Mr. Von Royce. Any other councillors?
If I could just say, I just wrote down some of what you mentioned. When you say equity between the districts, they can't all be copie-coller. I mean, every district needs to have parks and public spaces and green spaces, different parts of the city, correct, okay. Different parts of the city.
Mr. Bull, can she speak? You had the ability to speak. I would like the other members to speak.
Okay.
Can we have the other members speak?
So different areas of Dorval, they're not all the same. We have to start with what we have. We all, from what I understand, we all have the same wants, and certainly I would say needs, because there are young families to older people all throughout the city, in every part of the city. But I agree with Mr. Von Royce in the sense that I think that a good amount of work has been done. I do want to approve it tonight, and to me, it's sort of a work in progress. We can build upon that. Les pistes cyclables and the chemin piétonnier or shared roads, again, it's all something that we all believe in and we want to get there, but we have to start with a building block that has been, in my opinion, thoroughly worked on. And I would like to approve it tonight. Public Works move is in the next year and a half to 2 years. I don't think it should have been included. I don't see how it could have been included. 12 Dahlia, there's no usage yet. It will come. So I think it can be built upon, and I am in favor of approving it this evening.
Bon, dans ce cas-là, est-ce que s'il n'y a pas d'autres paroles d'autres membres du conseil, on va procéder
Non,
avec...
Monsieur le maire, je vais demander la
Ah,
parole.
excuse, Monsieur Trudeau.
Je vais encore revenir un peu comme mes collègues Nicole et Christopher. C'est pas un plan définitif pour les 25 prochaines années, on s'entend. C'est un starting block exactement comme c'est mentionné. L'idée, c'est que probablement que chaque conseil, donc à chaque 3 ou 4 ans, il devrait avoir une révision du plan directeur des parcs au maximum 3 ou 4 ans, parce que les besoins changent et aussi les endroits physiques changent. Valentine's, ça va être très différent du Valentine qu'on a. On ne peut pas connaître l'avenir. Ici, on verra qu'est-ce qui va arriver avec. Mais il y a certains endroits qui ont été discutés dans le plan directeur des parcs qui appartiennent même pas à la cité. Et ça, il faut faire attention avec ça. Quand on parle de Garden Crescent, on parle de 2 propriétés privées. Parce qu'en fait, c'est 2 propriétaires, ça. C'est pas un propriétaire. C'est un terrain qui appartient à des entreprises commerciales. On n'est pas rendu là à vouloir exproprier, à avoir un parc là. C'est pas certain qu'on va s'aligner pour ça. Alors, il faut faire attention quand on veut, oui, aller en grande et puis avoir des parcs, des espaces verts d'une façon démesurée. Tout le monde en veut, mais il faut y aller mollo, il faut y aller rationnellement. Je pense que c'est un bon départ et puis il faudrait peut-être approuver ça ce soir. Merci.
Est-ce que je peux avoir la parole?
Oui, Monsieur Wu.
Juste pour corriger, quand je parlais de Garden Crescent, je parlais de la population de Garden Crescent. Je ne parlais pas du terrain de l'espace vert. Je savais très bien que c'est privé. Que la population de Garden Crescent, la population de l'avenue Dorval, ce sont tous des appartements qui n'ont pas de cours. Et en grande majorité, là, peut-être, qui avaient des besoins. On ne les a pas adressés, ces besoins-là. Pour cette population-là, vers l'Est, est-ce qu'ils ont des bâtiments de loisirs? Il n'y en a aucun bâtiment de loisirs. Les loisirs, Mme Duchâtel, c'est concentré dans votre district. Donc, c'est correct qu'il y en ait un pôle civique. Mais il faut se mettre aussi à la place de ceux qui habitent à l'Est. Parce que là, vous dites, ah, ben là, on a tout, c'est correct. Oui, mais on a concentré sur qu'est-ce qu'on a, puis essayer de dire, on va refaire les parcs qu'on a, etc. Mais là, on a des nouveaux besoins. Où sont les nouveaux besoins? Bien, sur l'avenue Dorval, le boulevard Bouchard, Garden Crescent, c'est un endroit où il y a besoin, qui sont délaissés. Bourg-Galant, c'est un endroit qu'on a besoin d'offrir ces services-là. Est-ce qu'il y a une équité à travers la ville pour ces services-là? La réponse est non. Le côté nord se plaint toujours de ne pas avoir autant de services que du côté sud. C'est ça qu'il fallait adresser. Puis c'est ça que quand je dis les travaux publics, mais les travaux publics, ça s'en vient bientôt. Puis la planification, bien, la première planification, c'est de savoir qu'est-ce que le public veut, puis de trouver une vocation à ces buildings-là avant de dire « Ah, OK, on va investir là, là, là. » Là, ce qu'on fait, c'est on dépense. Puis on dépense en grande pour « OK, tel parc, tel parc, tel parc. » On est allé très, très vite pour dépenser. Puis là, dans le plan qui est là, bien, est-ce qu'on a sondé les besoins? Puis est-ce qu'on a dit, bon, bien, comment on va définir ça? Qu'est-ce qu'on voit comme ville dans 5 ans? C'était ça. Puis la dernière chose, je vous avoue, Mme Duchâtel, que vous avez été nommée sur un des nombreux comités que vous avez déjà, puis que moi, j'ai demandé, puis c'est ma job. Là. Moi, je suis un prof d'éducation physique, puis le maire m'a refusé, puis j'ai dit, qui décide, c'est le maire. Fait que des fois, il faut aussi se mettre à ma place que comment se fait que Pascal Brault est comme ça? Bien, Pascal Brault, on l'a mis sur aucun comité. Nicole Duchâtel, on l'a mis sur beaucoup de comités. Paul Trudeau, il y a beaucoup de comités avec beaucoup de pouvoir. Pascal Brault, aucun. Puis quand il y en a un, ben, je vais finir. Quand il y en a un, Nicole, je te parle, quand il y en a un, les vélos,
et la piste fais attention à ton langage. Non, mais la façon que vous venez de traiter Mme Duchâtel, c'était vraiment impoli.
Non, c'est toi. Nicole, moi, j'avais le comité des pistes cyclables, des corridors scolaires. J'ai pu jamais rien faire. on m'a kické out, puis là, finalement, on me l'a enlevé des mains. C'est dégueulasse. Je ferais jamais ça à un de mes élèves. Puis moi, là, j'ai le goût de pleurer ce soir, Nicole. Si tu veux savoir, là. Puis quand on accepte ça, là, puis que tout le monde dit, ben, c'est correct, ben, je trouve ça, c'est une grosse hypocrisie. Parce qu'à qu'est-ce qu'il subit, puis qu'est-ce qu'il vit, là, il n'est même pas capable de s'impliquer au conseil, il n'est même pas capable d'être dans un comité, quand les autres en ont plein de comités, plein de responsabilités. Ben, des fois, là, il faut que tu te mettes à ma place aussi. Merci.
OK, avant on va passer, Monsieur Le Sage, est-ce que vous... Non. Je veux juste corriger, avant qu'on passe à un vote. Monsieur Brault, vous avez une tendance à dire que vous n'êtes pas traité de la même façon. Je veux juste remarquer que vous êtes sur le comité d'environnement avec Monsieur Von Orts. Vous êtes sur le comité du DA, la Dorval Athletic Association, avec Monsieur Leroux. Vous êtes sur le comité de parc, comme tout le monde, et vous avez le rôle principal dans le plan directeur des pistes cyclables. Même moi, j'étais pas là. So,
c'est vous et le directeur général qui le faites, et vous m'excluez.
Pas du tout. Moi, je me souviens bien que vous avez eu des rencontres entre moi. Donc, on va passer au vote.
J'ai décidé de tout, puis il m'a dit, tiens, voici la version finale du plan des pistes cyclables, Pascal. Voici, c'est ça qu'on m'a donné. J'ai dit, ben là, on n'a même pas commencé. Non, voici la version finale. Oh, je ne sais pas.
OK, monsieur, non. OK, donc on a besoin de quelqu'un pour proposer l'approbation du plan directeur des parcs, s'il vous plaît. Ah, OK, un appuyeur. On le passe au vote. Est-ce qu'il y a une demande à passer au vote?
Est-ce qu'il y a une demande à passer au vote? Moi, je n'ai pas entendu ça, là. M. Brault demandait un droit de parole, mais il y avait l'adoption. Est-ce qu'il y a... M. Brault demande le vote ou vous vouliez juste faire un commentaire, M. Brault?
J'ai jamais vu ça, un directeur général qui prend la place comme ça du
Monsieur Brault, je vous demanderais juste de répondre à la question, s'il vous plaît.
Pourquoi le directeur général a une place comme ça qui décide de la formule?
Monsieur Brault, le directeur général veut s'assurer que l'Assemblée soit bien tenue. Je vous ai juste posé une question très polie. Je vous demanderais de répondre, s'il vous plaît.
Est-ce que c'est votre rôle de le faire?
Monsieur Brault, répondez à la question, s'il vous plaît.
C'est la question du président?
Monsieur Brault, répondez à la question.
Alors...
Est-ce que c'est le temps pour un vote?
Il faudrait bien expliquer. Vous demandez, est-ce que quelqu'un demande le vote, Monsieur le Président?
Et ça, c'est exactement ce que j'ai dit. Donc, j'ai besoin de quelqu'un pour proposer le vote. Donc, on a proposé, là. On passe au vote, messieurs? Oui? OK. Est-ce qu'il y a quelqu'un qui est contre l'adoption de la résolution?
Pour toutes les raisons que j'ai évoquées, pour le manque de démocratie, puis le manque de considération pour quelqu'un qui se présente en politique, qui veut faire sa part, puis qu'on l'isole tout le temps, puis que ça soit tellement désagréable, ben oui, je vote contre.
Merci. 3.1, dépôt de rapport et décision déléguée. Est-ce que vous avez des questions pour le DG?
Pas de question, mais il faut, je crois, que quelqu'un donne acte de dépôt. Donc, je donne avis de donner acte de dépôt du compte-rendu du directeur général sur les actes posés dans la période du 5 au 29 novembre 2024, inclusivement en vertu des pouvoirs qui lui sont délégués par le règlement intérieur du conseil municipal sur la délégation de pouvoirs aux fonctionnaires et employés RCM 3 2025.
Merci. 3.2, adoption règlement RCM-601-2024 sur les plans d'implantation et intégration architecturelle, le PIA.
Je propose d'adopter le règlement RCM 60I-2024 sur les plans d'implantation et d'intégration architecturale PIA.
J'appuie.
Merci. Est-ce que quelqu'un vote contre? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 3.3, adoption règlement RCM-1308-49-2024, modifiant le nouveau règlement de circulation.
Oui, M. le maire, je propose d'adopter le règlement RCM 1308-49-2024, modifiant de nouveau le règlement sur la circulation 1308-87 afin d'implanter un système de vignettes de stationnement avec la modification précitée de la tarification prévue à l'article 2 et que ce tarif sera de 40
J'appuie. Pardon.
Est-ce que quelqu'un vote contre? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 3.4, adoption règlement RCM-60A-19-2024, modifiant le nouveau règlement de zonage.
So, Mr. Mayor, I propose that following the first project adoption last month and the public consultation that was held, that we adopt bylaw RCM 60A-19-2024, further revising the zoning bylaw RCM 60A-2015 in order to authorize usage 6532, which is Centre Local de Services Communautaires, or CLSC, in the following zones: C01-30, C02-12, U02-29, U01-4, U01-5, U01-19, U01-22, U01-24, U01-26, U01-28, and U01-29, which all figure close to Dorval Avenue.
I second, Mr. Mayor.
Merci. Est-ce que quelqu'un vote contre la résolution? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 3.5. Adoption règlement numéro RCM-103.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, je propose d'adopter le règlement RCM-103, abrogeant le règlement RCM-77-2019 sur l'administration du club de tennis municipal de Dorval.
J'appuie.
Merci. Est-ce que quelqu'un vote contre? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. Adoption du règlement RCM-104 concernant les taxes pour l'exercice financier 2025.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'adopter le règlement RCM 104 concernant les taxes pour l'exercice financier 2025 en modifiant le taux pour les terrains vagues desservis de 1,6786 proposé dans le projet de règlement déposé lors de la séance extraordinaire du 2 décembre 2024 à 1,6784, puisque ce taux ne peut excéder le quadruple taux de base.
J'appuie.
Merci. Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre la résolution? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 3.7, adoption règlement RCM-105 relatif à l'imposition de taxes sur les terrains et les garages de stationnement non résidentiels.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, ce serait pour adopter tel que soumis le règlement RCM 105 relatif à l'imposition d'une taxe sur les terrains et les garages de stationnement non résidentiels pour l'exercice financier 2025.
Et j'appuie.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre la résolution? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 3.8, avis de motion, règlement RCM-60A-20, modifiant le nouveau règlement de zonage.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, je donne avis de motion de proposer à une séance ultérieure du conseil le règlement RCM-60A-20, modifiant de nouveau le règlement de zonage RCM-60A-2015. Ce règlement a pour but d'autoriser la construction hors toit habitable destinée à un usage commun exclusivement pour les résidents. Il peut s'agir, par exemple, de vestiaires de piscine ou de gymnase. Il visait également à autoriser les piscines pour les habitations multifamiliales dans les zones commerciales.
J'appuie. Non. Oh, excuse-moi. C'est un
avis de motion. 3.9, adoption, premier projet de règlement RCM-60A-20, modifiant de nouveau le règlement zonage.
Je propose d'adopter le premier projet de règlement RCM-60A-20, modifiant de nouveau le règlement de zonage RCM-60A-2015 aux fins d'autoriser les constructions hors toit habitable à l'usage commun des résidents exclusivement, ainsi que les piscines pour les habitations multifamiliales dans les zones commerciales.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Merci. Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre la résolution? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. Je crois, M. Houlon, il va y avoir une consultation sur ce sujet.
Exactement.
Merci. « 4.1 Renouvellement de la couverture d'assurance, responsabilité civile des fiduciaires du régime de retraite des employés de la Cité de Dorval. »
Monsieur le maire, je propose qu'on autorise la signature du contrat de courtage d'assurance avec Lucier Dale Parizeau au montant de 16 326,90 sous toutes taxes comprises pour l'assurance responsabilité des fiduciaires du régime de retraite des employés de Dorval et que la Cité de Dorval accepte, le cas échéant, de défrayer toute franchise applicable jusqu'à concurrence d'un montant de 1 000 par événement advenant la condamnation d'un membre du comité de retraite agissant à titre de fiduciaire de ce dernier, de même que l'excédent de tous frais non couverts par l'assureur en lien avec un tel événement.
J'appuie, monsieur le maire.
Merci. Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre la résolution? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 4.2 Renouvellement du contrat 2025, appel d'offres publiques, service de nettoyage d'infrastructures d'égouts.
Monsieur le maire, je propose de renouveler pour 2025 le contrat TP 2020-25 relatif à des services de nettoyage des conduites d'égouts sanitaires et pluviales, des puisards et d'autres infrastructures municipales adjugées à l'entreprise Beauregard Environnement Limité au montant de 402 852,11 sous, toutes taxes comprises, ainsi que d'autoriser des contingences de 11 497,50 sous, toutes taxes comprises dans le cadre de son contrat.
J'appuie.
Merci. Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre la résolution? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 4.3 Renouvellement du contrat 2025, appel d'offres publiques, location de balais aspirateurs.
Je propose de renouveler pour 2025 le contrat TP 2023-05 relatif à la location de balais aspirateurs avec opérateur adjugé à l'entreprise Balai Pro Inc. au montant global de 32 444,75 sous, toutes taxes comprises.
J'appuie, monsieur le maire.
Est-ce que quelqu'un vote contre? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 4.4 Renouvellement de contrat 2025, appel d'offres sur invitation, service d'impression.
Oui, monsieur le maire. Attendu qu'il y a lieu d'exercer l'option de renouvellement prévue tenant compte de l'IPC de 1,8 je propose de renouveler pour 2025 le contrat COM 2024-1 adjugé à l'entreprise AXA Impression Inc. pour des services d'impression des divers communiqués de la Cité de Dorval au montant global de 51 246,19 sous, toutes taxes comprises.
Et j'appuie.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre la résolution? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 4.5 Renouvellement de contrat 2025, licence et assistance logicielle de PG Solutions.
Mr. Mayor, I propose that we authorize the renewal for 2025 of the contract to PG Solutions for a total of $182,088.21, all taxes included, regarding the maintenance and support of various softwares and the following modules: Accessité Finances, Accessité Territoire, Entretien et Qualité de service, Connecteur géomatique, Voilà, Ludic, and licence Oracle for Ludic.
Would like a second?
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre la résolution? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 4.6 Dépenses additionnelles, projet de revitalisation du chemin bord du lac Lakeshore.
Oui, M. le maire, ce serait pour autoriser une dépense additionnelle maximale de 17 936,10 toutes taxes comprises, dans le cadre du contrat IM 2023-24 pour couvrir les dépenses découlant de l'élaboration de représentations supplémentaires dans le cadre du projet de revitalisation de chemin bord du lac Lakeshore entre l'avenue Dorval et Saint-Charles.
Et j'appuie.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre la résolution? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 4.7 Dépenses additionnelles, services d'accompagnement pour les subventions Oasis.
Monsieur le maire, je propose qu'on autorise une dépense supplémentaire aux ateliers Hublot pour un montant de 29 692,98 sous toute taxe comprise, afin de réaliser des activités inscrites au tableau officiel de la subvention pour le volet 1 de l'année 2024. Pour que le monde sache, on a eu une subvention pour le volet 1 de OSS. Il y a quelques étapes, démarches qu'il faut poursuivre, et ceci va nous permettre de les inclure, certaines d'autres dans ce premier temps.
J'appuie.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 4.8, octroi de contrat, demande de prix, service de web diffusion 2025 et 2026.
Je propose d'octroyer le contrat à Beau Avoir selon les prix unitaires de sa soumission pour un montant approximatif annuel de 20 925,45 $, toutes taxes comprises pour les années 2025 et 2026.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 4.9, octroi de contrat, demande de prix, analyse des terrains de balles de parc Sarteau-des-Noyers et de parc Saint-Charles.
Monsieur le maire, je propose d'octroyer le contrat de service professionnel à Désilet Baseball afin d'effectuer une analyse empirique des terrains de balles du parc Sarteau-des-Noyers et du parc Saint-Charles pour un montant de 22 995 $, toutes taxes comprises.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 4.10, octroi de contrat gré à gré, service d'apiculture urbaine, donc les abeilles.
Mr. Mayor, I propose that we issue a contract for apiary, I think that's it, services, urban apiary services to Alvéole Montréal for 2025 for an amount of $16,039.01, all taxes included, consistent with the two service offers provided for both beehives at Westwood and bee hotels on the Dorval Library roof. And authorize that the Director of Sports, Leisure, and Culture and Social Development to sign the appropriate service offers.
I second that.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 4.11, autorisation d'achat, collection 2025 pour la bibliothèque de Dorval.
Je propose d'autoriser l'acquisition des documents imprimés, audiovisuels et numériques jusqu'à concurrence de 267 590 $, toutes taxes comprises, auprès des fournisseurs suivants: Librairie Monet, Inc., Librairie Paragraphe, Librairie Clio, Corporation Presse Commerce, Livre Barbare, Inc., Groupe Archambault, Inc., EBCO Canada Limité, CVS Midwest Tape, la Librairie du Square, la Librairie de Verdun, Overdrive, Inc.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 5.1, dépôt de liste des dépenses autorisées.
Monsieur le maire, je donne avis. Oh.
Oui, allez-y.
Je donne avis. Acte du dépôt de la liste des dépenses autorisées du 1er au 30 novembre 2024, conformément à l'article 7.4 du règlement SCM-30-2009 en matière de contrôle et de suivi budgétaire.
Merci. Est-ce qu'il y a des questions additionnelles pour le directeur général? Non. 5.2, approbation des virements budgétaires. Monsieur Trudeau.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, je propose d'autoriser les virements au poste budgétaire tels que décrits au dossier décisionnel 2024-12-01-5813, lesquels mentionnent 14 postes budgétaires à être augmentés au montant de 270 000 $. Documentation toute incluse et conforme.
J'appuie.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 5.3, autorisation, disposition de biens immeubles.
Monsieur le maire, je propose d'autoriser la disposition des biens meubles énumérés dans le présent document décisionnel 2024-12-01-6958 par le biais du service d'appel d'offres du Centre d'acquisition gouvernementale, le CAG, le tout conformément à la politique de disposition des biens de la Cité Dorval. D'autoriser la disposition des articles qui ne répondent plus aux besoins des différents services qui sont non conformes aux normes de sécurité, obsolètes, brisés ou invendus, de façon éco-responsable et conformément à l'énoncé de la politique de disposition des biens de la Cité Dorval, et d'autoriser la chef de la section ressources matérielles à prendre les mesures requises auprès du Centre d'acquisition gouvernementale, Le CAG et a signé tout document requis pour donner effet à la présente résolution.
J'appuie.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 5.4, amendement de la résolution CM 2411-498, contrat d'entretien et de réparation des installations de plomberie.
Monsieur le maire, je propose qu'on amende la résolution CM 2411-498 afin d'autoriser le renouvellement 2025 du contrat à juger au Avtech Inc. Au montant de 121 179,08 sous toute action prise pour l'entretien et la réparation sur demande des installations de plomberie dans les bâtiments municipaux et centres aquatiques, ainsi qu'un montant additionnel de 80 000 toute action prise pour des travaux d'entretien supplémentaires exigés par la Cité de Dorval et non initialement prévus au contrat qui a été adopté, ça fait plusieurs années, en 2021, je crois.
J'appuie.
Merci. Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 5.5, abrogation de la résolution CM 2105-210, vote par correspondance.
Monsieur le maire, je propose d'abroger la résolution CM 2105-210 adoptée afin de permettre le vote par correspondance lors de la pandémie de la COVID-19.
J'appuie, monsieur le maire.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 5.6, octroi d'une subvention au Musée d'histoire et de patrimoine de Dorval.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, ce serait pour accorder une subvention de 125 957 et 40 sous au Musée Histoire et patrimoine de Dorval pour l'année 2025.
J'appuie.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 6.1, dépôt. Procès verbal du comité consultatif d'urbanisme du 19 novembre 2024.
Monsieur le maire.
Je donne acte de dépôt du procès-verbal de la rencontre du comité consultatif d'urbanisme tenue le 19 novembre 2024.
Merci. 6.2, dépôt de rapport comparatif à la liste de permis et certificats émis, novembre 2024.
Monsieur le maire, je donne avis de l'acte de dépôt des documents suivants. La liste des permis et certificats généraux émis pour le mois de novembre 2024 et un rapport comparatif progressif des permis et certificats émis pour les mois de novembre 2023 et 2024.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Oh non, c'est un dépôt, excuse. Merci, M. Von Reitz. 6.3, regroupement des demandes de PIA.
Je propose de regrouper les points 6.4 à 6.6 et d'adopter les points 6.4 à 6.6. Voici les demandes du PIA soumises au conseil pour le mois de décembre 2024 et les décisions afférentes. Donc, il y en a 3. Le 155 avenue Brockwell, agrandissement d'une habitation unifamiliale isolée, décision approuvée. 205 avenue Tulipe, agrandissement d'une habitation unifamiliale isolée, désapprouvé. Le 1425 route transcanadienne Nord, affichage sur un bâtiment commercial, approuvé.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Excusez, est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 6.7, dérogation mineure, le 205 avenue Tulipe.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, ce serait pour refuser la demande de dérogation mineure DM 2024-0058 relatif à l'immeuble situé au 205 avenue Tulipe sur le lot 1-523-700 visant une autorisation d'empiètement de l'agrandissement du bâtiment de 1,96 m dans la marge avant, alors que la distance minimale prescrite au règlement de zonage RCM 60A 2015 est de 6 mètres.
J'appuie.
Merci. Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 6.7, dérogation mineure, 205 avenue Tulipe. Normalement, on demanderait si quelqu'un dans la salle aurait un commentaire ou question, mais il n'y a personne dans la salle, donc je vous laisse. 7.1, programme Tech 2019 à 2023. Programmation des travaux, revision 5.
Monsieur le maire, je propose d'approuver le contenu et d'autoriser l'envoi au ministère des Affaires municipales et de l'Habitation de la programmation des travaux numéro 5, ci-jointe et de tous les autres documents exigés par le ministère en vue de recevoir la contribution gouvernementale qui lui a été confirmée dans une lettre de la ministre des Affaires municipales et de l'Habitation et d'informer le ministère des Affaires municipales et de l'Habitation de toute modification qui sera apportée à la programmation des travaux approuvée par la présente résolution.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Est-ce qu'il y a quelqu'un contre? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. Et pour ceux à la maison, le programme TEC, c'est une subvention qu'on reçoit du gouvernement provincial qui est faite avec une entente avec le gouvernement fédéral pour aider les municipalités à travers la province pour améliorer leurs infrastructures vieillissantes. Donc, très bon programme. 8.1, confirmation de permanence coordinatrice aux communications.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, je propose de confirmer à compter du 26 décembre 2024 la nomination permanente de Mme Halem Mesli au poste de coordonnatrice aux communications à la direction des communications et des relations avec les citoyens.
J'appuie.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 8.2, confirmation de permanence gestionnaire, infrastructure aquatique et qualité de l'eau de baignade.
Mr. Mayor, I propose that we confirm as of December 25th, 2024, the permanent appointment of Mr. Radu Ivan to the post of Aquatic Infrastructure Management and Water Quality Control within Public Services.
I second that.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 8.3, confirmation de permanence, superviseur hygiène et espace public.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, ce serait pour confirmer à compter du 21 novembre 2024 la nomination permanente de Monsieur Dominique Goulet au poste de superviseur hygiène et espace public à la direction des travaux publics, division environnement, parc et espaces verts.
J'appuie.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 8.4, confirmation de permanence soudeur.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, je propose de confirmer à compter du 9 décembre 2024 la nomination permanente de M. Massimo Chioccia au poste de soudeur pour la direction des travaux publics, division garage.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 8.5, confirmation de permanence technicien en génie municipal.
Monsieur le maire, je propose qu'on confirme au compter du 10 décembre 2024 la nomination permanente de M. Teoren Del Godice au poste de technicien en génie municipal au service de génie.
J'appuie.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. 8.6, mesures disciplinaires. Employé numéro 3120.
Je propose d'autoriser une suspension sans solde de 30 jours ouvrables à l'employé numéro 3120 pour des motifs exprimés dans le rapport joint, les dates de suspension restant à être fixées au moment opportun par son superviseur.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Est-ce que quelqu'un est contre? Donc, la résolution est adoptée. On n'a rien à faire de nouvelle. On est au point de lever la séance. Avant qu'on lève la séance, j'aimerais remercier tout le monde à la maison de passer votre soirée avec nous. I would like to wish you all a very happy holiday season. And we will see you again, maybe at the opening of the refrigerated rink before Christmas, or otherwise we'll see you in January. So I wish you the best over the holiday period. J'aimerais remercier tout le monde. J'espère que vous allez avoir une belle période de vacances avec vos familles. Je vous souhaite joyeux Noël et on se revoit peut-être à la patinoire réfrigérée dans les semaines qui viennent ou sinon en janvier au prochain conseil. Merci et bonne soirée. 10.1, levée de séance.
Mr. Mayor, I propose the closing of this council meeting at 22:49.
I second that.